All right, my friends. Welcome in, folks. We got good stuff to talk about today. Hello, good people. How you doing? I'm not very well lit. What is this light doing? Get up, come on. There we go. That's better. What's up, folks? Good to see you all. Lovely Monday. Starting a new week. New week, new me. Hello. 07s. I see a lot of 07s in chat. All the 7s. You know what they say about 7, though? It ain't 9. I introduced Mrs. Tomato to that joke for the first time a couple days ago. 7, 8, 9. Believe it or not, that joke doesn't work in other languages. Crazy. Folks, today we're gonna meander a little bit through the news, talk about some of the recent stuff, starting with Inside Star Citizen. Character customizer came out last week. I didn't really get to look at it too much. Mrs. Tomato showed me some of the highlights. I saw some posts on Twitter, but I haven't seen it yet, so we're gonna do that real quick live here. I'm also gonna look at a quick video somebody sent of apparently GII Racing getting some love in the System 7 qualifiers. So that's actually how we're gonna start, and then we'll move from there. The main show today, though, we will be looking at the letter from the chairman. Oh my gosh, there's a lot to go over. We're gonna spend a good long time digging deep into the letter from the chairman. I've of course got it up here, ready to go through with you all. But we've also got the last 2 letters from the chairman, because there are a couple references I think we can dive back in time to go look at. That add a little bit more context to this letter, and maybe we can compare a little bit and see if this is all just the same kind of stuff as normal, or if this letter is the special letter. That is K, by the way. K is the special letter. Everybody loves a good K. Welcome in, though, folks. Dupin. Good to see you. Wise Guy, Colton, Kigo. Welcome, Vassin, Dancin. I see you. Shifty, Jaybird, and MM with the 07s. Honestly, Twitch, we gotta work harder. We gotta work harder to fend off these YouTube boys in the beginning. You start, I give Twitch a good head start going live, and then YouTube just comes out of nowhere and clobbers everything with chat. You guys with the 07s, I love it. Pedro, Penguin, thank you guys. OMHC, welcome. I do see you though. Ethnification, Cult, Nova, welcome guys. Good to see you. Thank you for holding it down on Twitch. No, you're good, Kigo. Adam, welcome to you as well, and Deja. Don't worry, we got equal love for both platforms. I'm honestly just blessed and super glad that Turkey decided to not ban Twitch. Thanks, Turkey. Oops. It's the occasional W for you guys. We appreciate you not taking that away from us. That's kind of a big deal. Morning to all the garden. We are a week closer to 323, so let us give thanks to the Roberts and keep the garden growing. The garden grows, my friend. Good to see you, Vassin. And a congratulations to Vassin on chat. Just joined up on the events team over on GII. So, getting into more of the mining stuff. I know this guy's a mining guy and a racing guy. Looking forward to seeing what you do there. Shifty! Andreas. File in, folks. Get comfortable. Signusion, my friend. I've got my senbei ready to go. We brought a couple over from America. I'm eating them very sparingly. Thank you very much. One of those days, though. It's gonna be a fun time. YouTube can't even count past 7. They do struggle with that, huh? Became a member. Whoa, Game Crouton. Welcome to the onions, my friend. Make sure to reach out to Mrs. Tomato with your referral code. You get to add your referral code to all of our videos. Let's go. Okay, let's get started off with this. Like I said, we've got plenty of things to get through, so I will not delay much further. This, I was told, is a little bit of commentary going on during the Daymar Rally. Stanton, the System 7 qualifiers held by Atmo Esports. Lovely people run by Corsair. They take part. They do the Daymar Rally. They also do this System 7. They do Fight or Flight, which took place at CitizenCon. They're pretty big when it comes to Star Citizen esports now. the comments I get on my Star Citizen Daymar Rally video are funny. People are like, Star Citizen esports, what? No such thing. You know, I'm like, bro, if you get paid to race, that's the same thing. But yeah, they were covering some qualifiers recently, and our boys are out there qualifying, of course, as garden goers do. I don't know what they were saying though, so let's listen.
Well,
Not too sure what happened
fine.
there.
I think we just saw a little bit of desync or something.
Okay,
I think
all right.
he made the jump okay. I think that
That's
was all
Croncy
fine.
boy.
As we approach the end of Herbie's
Love that guy.
third lap, I do also want to talk about our next competitor, which is going to be Azon Keel from Garden Interstellar Racing. Now, this is an org.
Look, there he is. Azon Keel. What's up, dude? Good job, man.
That a lot of you will be familiar with. This is Space Tomato Gaming's org.
Yeah.
And, oh, sorry, a 115 from Herbie in that third lap.
What?
A 115. Incredibly
the actual
fast.
stuff that the video's
Well done, Herbie. That's more like it. I won't ban you from my stream.
Azon killed it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, very, very, very well done. But yeah, just Garden Interstellar Racing. They're an org that have gotten really, really into the spirit of the racing over the course of the last year. They had an absolutely amazing performance at the Daymar Rally, and we're seeing them constantly all over.
Signusion and Vassin in chat. I see we had plenty of people out there racing that day. But both Sig and Vassin in chat right now were racing on the bike division. And y'all, whoo, it was close. It was close. Pulled up that second place, though. It was good times.
Over the place now. So just an org that you need
and
to
also,
look
yeah,
out for,
as is being said in chat,
watch and see.
Watch these racing events. This is probably some of the best example of the Star Citizen community, because the racing community is just very much far and beyond in terms of their community like events and stuff. Link is getting dropped in chat. Stand by. While he's talking, I'll do that.
See how they do over the course of these next sort of premium racing events. And once again, maybe learn a thing or two. Who knows?
Yeah, and with 3 racers, that means that there's only going to be 1 attempt for Garden, and that's going to be happening very soon. And for those who are watching, keeping an eye on the times there on that column, you may have noticed that some of those times were different from the, again, the valid...
Right, that might be the end of this commentary. I do want to see Azon's run. We can find that in here. Love you, Papa. Papa Freedom. But we're trying to find my boy.
Dark Hours time, which was 1:25:24. Now, once again, were cooler and more fun, and a little. You got to turn straight away, and that was very.
So once after Feather A and D,
I can go get ourselves some water and get ourselves refreshed. Here in silence, sipping water.
Even that, they managed to recover.
The first 30
I'm looking
seconds.
at the camera people. Jesus. I'm just real dumb. Man. Probably could have had that timed better. How about we just get to the character customizer, yeah? Let's talk about character customization. Shout out, though, to the GII racing team. Seriously, they have been doing an amazing job and getting the name out there in the racing community. But now we're going to talk about making ourselves pretty. Beards and hairs and complexions and stuff. Did I scrub past? I did not mean to. I'll have to find that at a better time and make sure I have it prepared to go up. Let's see what, hold on, let me turn this on. All right, so we know the character customizer. The character customizer has been a long time coming. We've talked a little bit about our woes with hair. Now we're still waiting for that hair engine thing. I wonder if Tisha Pacheco will now get her hair in 323. We'll have to see. But finally, they're introducing to us the character customizer, where you get to make characters customized and they actually look like you, and you can save them. I love that. So let's see what it has to offer and if it's actually any good.
Persistent universe arrival of our new character customizer. enabling better representation and a true sense of ownership over your individual avatar in the verse. And to share with you the various ins and outs of what's ahead, let's throw it now to just a few folks standing in front of the massive team that made all of this possible.
The reality of the old character creator is that the old character creator could walk so that this one could run.
The original mandate was,
really
let's
walked.
just get the PU customizer working in Squadron with building blocks instead of Flash.
It was very bare bones. We hadn't had a lot of progress on it.
We had no design, we had no designer, or anyone else working on the project except me.
Basically, the task was make it look pretty.
The very, very first underpinnings of the character creator actually still exist. It's our DNA system.
In the old one, you could only blend between the different faces. Also, you could only blend from one face to another at a time.
The character customizer for Star Citizen is so important because players get ownership over their character. They're not just representing some player character that some artist has created, but they're representing themselves. We want the player to be able to represent themselves in the world and the universe that is Star Citizen.
I feel that. I want to represent, you know? Tattoos and stuff. I get my Pico tattoo.
So the character customizer that's coming into Star Citizen in 3.23 is broken down into 4 main sections.
The first section of the character creator is the DNA system, and that's where the player actually interacts with the blending and the shape of the actual head itself.
It's still the same DNA system in terms of when we apply it to the characters. The difference is how we interact with that DNA system. So we've introduced
I feel like you can tell that Sean Tracy is a heavy hitter. Because this dude just shows up on the most random stuff. Like, first he was the Theaters of War guy. Now he, honestly, it feels like he's become the character customizer guy just a little bit. Not like he's the only one working on it, but like, he originally was the person who like presented it on stage at CitizenCon. He opened up the ISC episode. And like, this dude just, I mean, he comes from Crytek, right? If I'm not mistaken. He was one of the lead engineers at Crytek when they got picked up by CIG. So obviously he's got like real good knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes, but man, he wrote a whole book on CryEngine. There he goes. Yeah, so he knows what's up, and it's always interesting to see where he just kind of pops up in the development.
The big thing, so you can just grab these nodes on the face of the character that you have and shape it as you see fit.
Yeah, this is cool. So originally I thought this was like you were just shaping it and you were just dragging it to kind of whatever you wanted to do, right? So you can make a really, really weird face. But this actually kind of stops you from making weird faces because all of the parameters that you're dragging in between are still based on the real faces. So you're only dragging between the extreme of like whatever face has the chin most extreme inward and whatever face has this part of the chin the most extreme outward. So you're like, you're limited in the sense of what their data bank allows, but you can still kind of freeform customize in a sense, which I think is pretty cool. Just doesn't let us, you know, make the ultimate gremlin master assassin with a knife.
What face sculpting allows us to do is instead of saying, I want a certain proportion of a certain head, it allows us to say, I want to pull this vertex to this position, and then we can work out what proportions of different heads is required to get that vertex into that position.
The system is very, very cool. As behind the scenes, we can't just adjust the face into certain shapes and be happy with it. We have to also change the rig. We also have to change the corrective blend shapes.
But we've also kept the original DNA blending as well, but we've tried to improve the user experience of that as much as possible.
Now you have.
It's also very much like them to have the whole menu kind of in engine
as
like
much
this.
as possible.
I like that. I like that it's sort of a physicalized sense that you're looking at. Although you would think it'd be a little bit more look like you were actually creating an identity. Whatever, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to mostly compare to Mass Effect because that's still my standard. I know Baldur's Gate's probably the standard for a character customizer at this point. And there are much better ones than Mass Effect, but as far as like a sci-fi based, and I'm talking in terms of like design, sci-fi, stuff like that, I think Mass Effect is a little better in the lore, at least so far. We haven't even gotten to try this out ourselves yet, so I'll wait.
Now you have a full list of heads at your disposal, so you can see all the heads available, and you can tweak. You can take a bit of the nose from that face. You can take the eyes
this game
from that
wasn't very
face
good
easily. It's
facial.
quick to use.
Yeah, so the PU is very modern.
If Black Desert is gold standard, how does this compare? Because people are actually coming out and being like, oh, this is character customizers for 10 years have been able to do that. I feel like what they're building here is standard for what I would expect now. It more comes down to, I think a better customizer is one that allows you to hit a look that you're looking for rather than keep trying to guess at it. And it feels like this does a good job at that. But I would be interested in knowing how it actually compares from you guys.
Sleek looking look. We're trying to go for like almost like the Apple Vision Pro look. But yeah, it's very modern compared to your Squadron, and it's a lot more in date, I guess you could say.
Basically trying to reduce the number of mouse clicks it takes to get what you're looking for.
So some of the other things that you can do in the DNA section is the skin tone adjustment, as well as the skin material or the skin texture itself. So what you can do within this is you can actually skin tone adjust this into realistic shades of certain skin tones to better represent yourself.
Your freckles, and we have some blemishes on there.
And these represent actual scans of people that we've done throughout the course of the years, and we've actually scanned a whole bunch more that we will be adding to the pool as time goes on.
But we are always making that.
I do feel like there's stuff missing here. Obviously, there are more. In fact, we could go back and see that for ourselves. Let's head back to the previous look at the character customizer. This would have been in character advancement. So you can tell, even here, the design is different from what they were doing in Squadron 42. Like that one had and this might have just been an older version, but this looks a little bit more military-esque. You know, you got the uniform on, you got these, I don't know, military colors in the background. I don't really know what to call them. Complexion was in a different place though now. It does look like actually the settings are the same there. You got 2 for freckles, 2 for sunspots. Got eye color. I don't even see the one for complexion. Texture. There we go. So all the same features are there. Maybe they are done with that, but I feel like there's plenty more space here to, you know, fill out some more customization on the skin. They might not want to go too far.
Larger. So the faces are always going to look better and better and have more variations in them. So the next big aspect is hair.
Within the hair section, there's a whole bunch of new hairstyles, which is obviously the first and most important thing. One of the interesting things, and the teams I represent worked really, really hard on this to have some hair simulation onto it. So you can see the hair move around as you're even selecting it, and then as you add it onto the character, you can see it move around even more.
But better than that, you now also have a massive library of beards and facial hair and eyebrows as well. So you can mix and match to get exactly what you're after.
Gotta go check in my eyebrow library.
Where you could cycle through hairs, you could cycle through hair colors. You now have a massive library of all the hairs.
Whereas in the previous character customizer, we just had a bunch of preset material variants. For the new character customizer, we want to give the player
the beard hair still looks, I would say that's probably the least impressive looking hair part, but that's saying something. I think the hair looks really good in this already.
For preset material variants.
I do wonder if when you get curly head hair, which they're going to show here in a minute, if you also get curly beard hair.
For the new character customizer, we want to give the player the power to go in and actually edit those materials.
YouTube chat wild today. YouTube chat's always
What's
wild.
even cooler about this now is, though we had the hair selections before, you could never tint it. You could never come up with your own color set.
We can go in and we can change the natural color of the hair. We can change the dye amount.
But we also have the new gradient system where you can choose to have...
This is so sick. I don't think I've ever seen this in a game. Again, I don't know that many character customizers. I'm not playing that many games, I'll give you that. But I haven't seen many opportunities to do like dyeing of hair in multiple segments, and I really like that because something we've been wanting to do with my hair over the past, I don't know, year, maybe year and a half, was bleach it so that it grew out, and I had a little bit of black and bleach. But we never got around to it. Now I can try it out on this first, you know, if I ever am able to make myself. I feel like I probably can't make myself. I suck at these. But I also feel like somebody is going to be able to just run like a little business, not a business, not like they're making money, but like just taking requests, making characters, and then passing out the files to people. That's probably something that already happens in other games.
One dye color for the roots of your hair, another dye color for the tips of your hair, and then you can set where the gradient changes.
Not only do we have like a blonde hair, but then we have a purple highlight that's done at the end. Or
look how patchy it is too when your beard is like that. Just like I applied this with a spray bottle.
Top, and that's all player configurable. So not only do you have a whole bunch of different hairstyles to choose from, but you've got the full color gamut as well.
And all of that is brand new functionality that we've added to a character customizer, so we can update the.
The only thing is like you can really tell where the face ends and like the head begins. Like this is super, super obvious, and I'm wondering if that's work in progress or just how it's going to be.
That we've added to a character customizer.
You can see it over here too, like a pretty obvious end to the face, and then the sort of head model begins right here. Do I have a price prediction for the Apollo? A kidney? They got to take you in and take your kidney out, and then you get to keep the ship.
So we can update the shader params on the hair in real time.
So my favorite aspect of the new facial hairstyles is the variety. We have a large library for being the first version of this, and it's going to grow even more within the coming years.
That's just a funny combo for some reason. I feel like it's something about the symmetry of the hair curling down past the face and the mustache curling down past the lips that really just nails that.
And it's going to grow even more within the coming years.
And as we've begun to include more culturally diverse hairstyles in 3.23.
Yeah, see, the beard hair is still straight, which is a thing.
And as we've begun to include more culturally diverse hairstyles.
But the freaking curls look good. I think this looks pretty good.
In 3.23, the team is working on more that will be seen in the patches to come.
So the third major aspect of the new character customizer is...
It does not need to be your kidney. Absolutely.
Styling.
The makeup is another completely new feature for the new character customizer.
You'll be able to pick your makeup for eyes, your cheeks, and your lips.
We actually used to have makeup baked into the textures where we had already pre-selected.
I don't know much about makeup, but the fact that you can customize it, multiple different types of makeup is pretty nice. I remember when, you know, makeup at least started to become more of a thing in game customization, and it would just be like, put this color on your face. It's not super helpful.
Selected eyeliner.
It is when your face is just like 10 pixels.
And all these kind of things to represent what that given skin tone was. But we wanted the player to make that choice. We wanted the player to have access to all the different gamuts of colors, all the different specular reactions, all the different highlights that they may want to do for their character.
For each of these, you will have some base versions that you can pick from, but you can also go in and tweak these on a deeper level. You can set the opacity, you can set different colors for, you can have one color for the eyeliner, one for the eyeshadow.
Serving.
Like the hair,
that
we
is
can
vibrant.
set certain colors and parameters on the makeup, so that's like...
I am uncomfortably close. Please back up a bit, sir.
How glossy it is and the opacity of the makeup. Unlike the hair, we actually set the shape of the makeup as well. And the way that we do that is we're basically adding new textures to the skin material on the players. And again, we update all of that in real time. And that is also quite similar to the new freckles and sunspots, how they work. That's again another texture that we've added to the player character's skin. And then we can tweak these parameters on the shader in real time to show more or less freckles or more or less sunspots.
So when it comes to the different styles and what you can achieve in the character customizer, it's been a constant push and pull of making it look really good, really realistic, and letting people just do what they want. And we've been trying to keep it as realistic as possible, but still letting people
I didn't get this reference when I first saw it, but now I do.
Do exactly what they want with it, because we're leaving so much power in the hands of the players. They can tweak all these different colors and all of their different...
I freaking love the root dye.
Hair,
I think that's my
facial hair,
favorite part.
Eyebrows, as well as these different makeup sections. And it can get pretty zany.
So the makeup itself is actually a fairly complex feature behind the hood. But in the end, I think it actually presents as a pretty fun interaction to changing up the skin tone and, again, representing yourself within the world of Star Citizen.
So the fourth main feature is all the
like he's got
additional
goggles on.
functionality. We'll have a review page where you can see your character.
This is when you're actually taking a look at your character as a whole, from the toes all the way to the top of the head.
Another part of the core functionality of this is the randomization. So now we allow players to both randomize the whole thing, so you get a totally new look, so you get a good canvas to start off of.
Now, one of the really fun things about the character creator, and I didn't mention at CitizenCon and definitely should have, is that we do have the save.
Hold up.
And I didn't mention at CitizenCon.
This is a look. Okay.
And definitely should have, is that we do have the save and load functionality finally with
okay. This is actually, maybe this might be the coolest part. If we can have multiple characters, can we have multiple like actual characters? Where is this going? Why would we be able to have multiple characters on an account? You know, are like what? I feel like at this point it's kind of a given that we're just gonna need to have alt accounts because you want to experience the game, but like reputation is gonna be huge here. You don't want to just have to mess up your reputation just to try one little mission, especially if you're on the wrong side of the galaxy. So is this? Are we starting to possibly think about multiple profiles on an account, or am I being very, very copious and hopious and mopious at the same time? I don't know.
So you'll be able to export your character onto your PC and find that file, send it to your friend, and they can import that into their game and see that character on their machine.
So no longer will you have to worry about a reset or anything. You can save your character, you can reload it.
You can not only save your character to persistence and get it to load into the PU, but you can save a bunch of characters that you can then just load in at any time into the character customizer. And you can also send these to other players that they can then load in your custom-made characters as well. And this is the exact same tool that we're using internally at CIG to create NPCs that we're rolling out to all players in 3.23.
And I'd like to take this very rare opportunity to ask you guys and to challenge you.
Okay, wait, hold
and I'd
up.
like to
Copy from toes. Oh, I see. Just copy from your hair or your eyebrows. I thought that was copy from another character.
take this very rare opportunity to ask you guys and to challenge you guys to make a version of Jared and share it with the community and with us so that we can see how close you've gotten. And if there's one I really like, maybe I'll do something pretty terrible with it.
What I'm really hoping to
Make
see
it a mission giver.
is a hyper-realistic Chris Perry that someone could send to me for reasons.
A Chris Roberts. We gotta do Chris through the ages. We gotta have different characters created for Chris at each part of the development of Star Citizen. Poor guy, dude. This game has probably aged him so many more years than we'll ever have to wait for it.
So that's what's coming in 3.23. But in the future, we'll also be adding tattoos, piercings, stubble, and more eye settings. So you're gonna be able to do even more customization at that point.
So this
Okay,
is a major
I'm guessing tattoos are one of those things we'll see on that face customization menu we were looking at.
milestone for Star Citizen because Finally, the presentation is exactly at a state that we wanted. So many different teams have been involved in this, from lighting to environments to feature teams to tech art to tech animation to animation programming. Everyone has seen this, has been involved in this, and it's gone all the way up through the chain, through to executive approval. So it's finally to a state where Chris has actually been happy with it and that we could release it to the community.
I love that.
Really happy. We put a lot of
Hey, it's Maiden.
time and effort into
I've seen that.
getting it to where we want it to be today, so it's come a long way. Particularly happy with like how it's just easy to use, and you can basically go from like scratch and just completely start from a clean slate and just create whatever you want, really.
You're going to be able to express yourself with your characters so much more than before. And you're going to
That's kind of my hair. I just can't connect these two little bits. Sorry, I can't really grow much hair.
be able to see everyone in the verse really being themselves or whoever they want to be out there. I think that we have made one of the strongest character customizers
See,
that's
now-
out there at this point.
There's
And
there's my problem with the character customizer. I can't have these little bits of hair not connect because I'm a stupid little can't get these dumb gaps closed. Why can't I do that in the game?
we are very proud of this.
Terrible customizer.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the character customizer in Alpha 323 is dope as that it's the next major milestone in our continuing efforts to enable better representation and customization of your player avatars in the verse. And that even more options, things like tattoos, scarrings, and even more, are on their way after that. And, of course, if you don't want to spend time creating your avatar, you can just hit the little randomize button down there and see what you get. Random. Random.
Just put all the all the devs in here.
Random.
If only we did get randomized height.
Hi,
That's
I'm
what we're
David.
missing.
I have to read the teleprompter. I'm the producer for ISC. I make it possible for Jared to do stupid things like this. And I'm British. That's it. Just British. I say things like peanut butter, water, and rubbish. And I'm always explaining to others why Jared did things like this. And I'm good at my job. Aw. But my job is being British. Teleprompter. What's that line? What was that?
Just
like
close to a
to have
teleprompter.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
I because Mrs. T, well, there's still more. There's still more. Hold on. Thank you for watching.
All right, so are we recording?
Yeah, we're all in.
All right. So normally at the end of the show here, we would have a meme image. It's funny, haha.
Yum, 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 yum.
David, do we have anything this week?
We got that one thing, but we're not allowed to show it yet.
Oh, the one thing we're not allowed to show yet. Well, I mean, who wants to live forever? Hold on, I get out of here. There we go. There's a lot better. Can you see this? No, this way. What is this? Wow. Yeah. What sounds do the
Birds. What is this?
Clearly, never heard what.
Honestly,
the bird
that sounds like
before in our lives.
the pier at San Francisco. A little bit. Probably a lot of Jareds out there. I'm assuming that's the teaser for Fauna, which I've definitely seen the teaser for. It's really easy to find where that specific thing was referenced. This has nothing to do with the character customizer, but we'll look at this real quick. Just super quick. You go down to the AI part of the January monthly report, and I think it's, you know what, we could just search for the word. Uh-oh. Is it not January? Oh, it is hard to find. I was wrong, it's hard to find. Can we just edit this part out? November, December? That might have been it. I know it was early in the year. Stand by. Just gonna cut all this out. I'm probably not, I'm gonna forget it. There we go. Animation spent time bringing creatures to the verse, starting with a four-legged predator, a bird, and a fish. Pretty sure that's the bird. I mean, this might not be the exact bird, but like, they were working on a bird. we've seen that. If you go back in their Inside Star Citizen videos a couple of years ago, you'll also see a concept image of a bird that they were working on back then. So I think that if you go back and look at that video, it's probably like 2 or 3 of those creatures that are coming to the game in 3.23 and the next few features. But that has nothing to do with the character customizer. I think that was solid. Cool little addition to the game. I think, you know, it's a big part of a game like this. It's not gonna make the game or break the game. It's not like it's a revolutionary change to gaming overall, but I think it's good to have a good character customizer. And Star Citizen's been hurting for one. As an MMO, you need to be able to customize your character. So that's solid. I look forward to seeing more of how that's gonna actually matter in game. The way that inventory works when you're equipping things, how often do you see your character, and things like that. But I like what we're seeing. It looks like we're going to have high quality NPCs and some pretty good looking player characters now that maybe we can have a reason to take our helmets off or something. Either way, that's Character Customizer. See you in the next one. And for everyone else who's still here, now the video is over, we can actually talk about that stuff. What y'all think? I didn't want to, because I don't want to cut down a bunch of time in that video, so I just wanted to upload that and then have some discussion with you before we get into the letter from the chairman. The real deal today. It's a flying leather chicken. A leather chicken, huh? It's like a chicken made out of cowhide. Gotta go. Just want to introduce yourself, Delta. Hop in chat for the first time. Hopefully can get into Star Citizen and enjoy it like the rest of you. Welcome, Delta, and thank you for hopping by. Catch you later. Hope you enjoyed. Do I think 3.23 will come out this week because the PTU is down? No. I do not. You look forward to Space Tomato's character looking almost like Space Tomato. I'm not very good. Mrs. Tomato will make it, and it'll probably look much closer than if I did. You wish to be a good vibe? Good vibes are good. Yum, 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 yum. Really excited for the non-humans coming in. Saw the Twitter teaser in the cave. I did, yes. So, like, creatures are coming. There's no way they're not coming. I think we were very suspicious of it earlier in the year, and now it's all but confirmed. It was one of the things that people were saying is probably that initiative. I think they mentioned actually an AI initiative that's coming to 3.23, but we're not going to talk about it. And they can't help it. They talked about it. And we'll probably see more before it comes into the game too. Have I heard anything about extra game packages because becoming crew NPCs? No, and I did mention during the episode about customizing your character and you know, getting multiple profiles for an account. I know that's wishful thinking, and people are saying that like game packages might become NPCs and all that jazz. I don't know what their plans are there. I think a lot of stuff that they have said in the past they'll try to do, but might be edited a little bit. Like yeah, just different little details. Important but little. Not sure how they're important but little, but we'll go with it. We need content and some common sense, not character customization. What? Do you think that the rest of the company is not working on the game? Come on, man. Come on. Come on. There's so much more people working at the company than those 5. Hey, Luna Maria, how's it going? Good to see you. It isn't even 9 a.m. yet. Yes, we've changed the stream time. The new announcement is up on Discord. The official new stream time is 2 p.m. UTC, which I think would be 7 a.m. in California, PST. So it'll be a little bit earlier, but I also will be running into that normal time as well. So hi, welcome in. Thank you for coming. Sorry if you're late and you missed the start, but we're only just now getting into the juicy parts. So you came right on time. Currently still in a meeting, so only lurking without sound. I feel you. Well, thank you for being here, Shifty. We walk in helmets for 90% of gameplay. Well, yeah, we also don't even have, like, we don't even have... I could go on a list of how many things aren't in the game that will cause us to play them differently. They're not making the character customization for right now. They're making it for the finished game. Imagine if we didn't have a character customizer. Any updates from them on when we will get sand dunes? Ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know what they would do about sand. That's an interesting question. Any updates? Oh. PDT, yes, you're right. The Nom Nami's scaring you. Finish the game. Hey, you know what, Shivo? Good point. Why don't we read about them finishing the game? I don't know, man. They just showed off server meshing. I don't know how anybody is looking at anything in this game right now and thinking that that's the only thing going on. In all of my time, I've covered this game for 4 years now, almost 5, and I have played this game or looked at it for almost 10 years. Not a single time in the development have they ever been doing so many things in so many different parts of the company. In just the last month, we've seen server meshing work. Okay, server meshing works, right? With almost 400 player servers. We saw character customizer get shown off. We saw FPS weapons change. And then before that, we were seeing engineering gameplay. We're seeing Squadron 42 trailer. We're seeing DLSS, FSR. We're seeing like optimizations coming in. They're talking about possibly global illumination being included in 323 now. Like it's hard to imagine that it's not a full company working on a bunch of things. That being said, though, let's talk about this letter. Global illumination seems to be in. Did someone say character customizer isn't content? What's up, Citizen Scott? How are you doing, man? Good to see you. Hello, Mesa. Alrighty. Y'all know the drill. This is going to be a rather... Let me start the recording. Okay. So everybody knows how kind of this goes. When I open up something to go over, generally, we go back and forth a lot. We'll be chatting. We talk about the letter. We will be looking back at previous letters to see if this is in any way similar. And we'll probably pull up some of these old references in Star Citizen's history as a little chuckle. Because it's always a good time. In fact, we should go back to... Oh, holy crap, look at that. We were just going over the character customizer, and I just came across, I think, the introduction of the one that's about to get replaced. Here. Oh, boy. So if you wanted to, like, get an idea of where they came from. Hold on, you wanna select your eyeballs?
All of these new settings,
Toes!
as you imagine.
I'm pretty sure this is placeholder. Select your... Oh, dear. Okay. What I wanted to pull up was that 2017, I think it was, roadmap that showed, like, server meshing or new star systems in 2018. It's way back here. All right, we'll find it when the time comes. Mobile game eyes. So, for those who don't know, letter from the chairman sounds more pompous than it is. This is just an update from the company, penned in Chris Roberts' language, I'm sure. Maybe he's got a couple edits, I don't know. But usually these come out during pretty big milestones. In the past, we used to get these around, like, when they were still starting out, but pre-$100 million time. It would be kind of like every major funding milestone. 70 million, 80 million, 90 million, 100 million, 150 million, 200 million, 300 million, 400 million, 500 million. And then they started to happen more when significant things happened. That was like in the 2020s, I'd say. I don't know what number we were at by then, but they started to come out more as an actual update of the progress because they were making some legitimate progress. And this was the best way for them to put down like a word for word understanding of where they are as a company. It also, I think, gives the best idea of maybe not what the long-term idea of Star Citizen is, but at least gives some insight into what they're planning. So for instance, this one back in 2022 showed like the different studios they were opening. It showed the numbers of people that they were starting to bring in and how many folks they wanted to bring, like 1,700 jobs to the area in Manchester or something. It gave you the idea that they were expanding and that they were in 2022 and not thinking about slowing down. And likely that Squadron 42 was only a few years away because they needed a pretty big injection of funding. So we'll see what this one kind of tells us as we go through it. I know there are some hot spots in there for news, and we'll focus on that. What'd they tell me about 323 yesterday? I haven't heard much actually. Gotta get somebody into a voice channel and not let them go until they tell me all the details. All right, let's start. 2023 marked the beginning of a transformative chapter for Cloud Imperium and both of our games. With Alpha 3.18 and our first release of 2023, the team delivered persistent entity streaming, the foundational tech that is necessary for server meshing. As we mentioned in the last letter, PES is the hardest part of the work needed for server meshing and is the one that required the most engineering. So overcoming the challenges with this release last year was mission critical. This is actually, we're already getting to something that's pretty key. So let's dive back to December of 2022. This is about a year and a few months ago when they gave us an update. Oh no, sorry, wrong one. This one, May of 2022. This is back when they got PES working for the first time. And they go over the process of putting this all together, just to give an idea of the scale. For PES to work, both the entity graph and replication layer need to be functional. In terms of engineering, this was the biggest technical challenge and required a fundamental reworking of how the game handles authority and state change of entities. In addition, a whole host of new online services were needed to support the replication layer and the entity graph. To support PES, we needed to create 12 new services. I would point you towards this podcast right here with Panic Switch and Unobtainium. In this podcast, we go over, oh no, I'm sorry. No. Wrong one. This one with Mr. Tibio and Kevin Riggle. Yeah, in this one, too many server meshing podcasts. In this one, we talked about how this is a set of microservices working together. I don't know this stuff, like don't come to me about the details if I'm wrong, but the way he said it was that this is something that is not uncommon in software, but doesn't happen as much with games. Packaging up microservices to make something that can technologically run the game in some other way. That's where my understanding kind of flutters off into the distance. But these services are important, and the scale of them is kind of clear here when they say that PES was needed to create 12 new services to run, and for server meshing, only 4 more services are currently planned. So at least at that time, which could be outdated by now, they planned 16 services, and 3/4 of those services were needed for PES. Just kind of putting into perspective the importance of PES. And when you hear someone say, oh, remember when 3.18 came out and it broke everything and then nothing changed? That's not true. None of this that we're experiencing right now would be possible if they didn't get PES into the game. The fact that we don't notice PES right now means that they have, tweaked things around enough so that we don't, which is good. And hopefully they can continue to make it run better in the background. All right. So at the launch of Alpha 3.18 was far more challenging than we anticipated, and we discovered some issues with our backend database that only were visible at the scale we see on a live release as opposed to the persistent test universe. Outside of this, we uncovered a lot of little issues that come from a truly persistent universe. While it is amazing to come back across a wreck from a player combat a week ago, it is not fun to try and land at a hangar where the last 3 ships crashed and left debris laying around, blocking your landing pad. This is why we need missions for the SRV. You guys don't have to call that stuff out. Just make players pick it up. Come on, get us to work. We slowly worked through these issues and others, but it was challenging time both for the development team and the community as we gnashed our teeth. These obstacles not only tested our skills and determination, but also demonstrated our resilience as we overcame them. Beyond PES 2023 welcomed the long-awaited implementation of salvage, encompassing hull stripping, structural, component, and repair. Repair. Accompanied by relevant missions, traders reap the benefits of an overhauled, no pun intended, and physicalized cargo system, while players across the board enjoyed many new missions spanning both PvE and PvP. This physicalized cargo system, it's still kind of ongoing, but it's also one of those things that happened last year that is the reason we're getting all of this cargo career stuff going on this year. They're about to add new cargo missions and freight elevators and all that, and that's built on the back of that work that initially started with 318. And then there was a ship. They also really let's just throw a ship in there, huh? Our development journey reached a series of significant milestones last year, all of which took center stage at CitizenCon 2953. That is not an overstatement. A lot of different things happened at the same time over the last 2 years. I don't know if that was planned. I don't think it was planned. I think a lot of it kind of happened to happen because of Squadron 42's development. But there are things like engineering that just seemed to roll right into the timeline with everything else that I'm just like, wow, this is culminating into something quite big. Google something once and you see ads for nothing but that for weeks. Oh my gosh. The worst thing is when you like do business with somebody, you order something from someone and then you keep seeing their ads. Why are you showing me ads? I bought stuff from you.
Sticker mule?
Yeah, sticker mule. We've already gotten the stuff, all right? We can't get any more buy one, get 17 free deals. They're all free at this point. I just realized I'm missing notifications. I am so sorry. Hold on. Let's go back. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Bart, thank you for the follow. I see you. Taryn McLean, thank you for the bits. Pizza Fund. Welcome, J-Bird with the cheer. Thank you for the 1-bit. Tussball and the sub with the toes. And Melismo, gifting out the 2 subs to the community. Much love to you. Thank you so much. Twitch, popping off. You heard it here first, folks. And that raffle's still not working. Sorry, folks. Toes. And Lagafi.
Toes.
Prime sub. Yo, taking Amazon for all they're worth. I see you. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Where were we? Our development journey reached a series of we said that. The magnitude of this event for everyone at CIG cannot be overstated, especially considering it marked our first in-person CitizenCon in over 4 years. That's why we were there. Like, you couldn't miss it. We've been powered by all of your excitement since the very beginning of the journey, and we've missed the energy that comes from spending time together, sharing our mutual excitement about what we're building. That's something you can't really match putting your developers that are working hard all throughout the year in the middle of a bunch of people who are like rabid for their work. That's a huge morale boost, I think, for developers. It might be stressful, but I think that probably really helps quantify how much people care about the stuff that you're doing. I know that's what I realized. You know, here, obviously, we feel the love. I enjoy chat. It's a freaking blast being here, but it's different walking up and meeting people in person and talking about the content and the game and all that stuff. It just different effect. So I think that for them, this must have been a really big moment. Good for them. Yo, Mal 5. Why did it call you Mouse? The show was an incredible affirmation of all of our hard work, both on Star Citizen and Squadron 42 in 2023. And it kicked off our best Q4 ever in terms of player logins and engagement. I bet all those players logging in and realizing that's not how the game looks. Gotta wait another year. Thanks to all of you and a huge wave in 2020. In Q4 2023 was our best year ever, with record highs in daily active players, monthly active players, unique logins, and hours played for the year. More than 1.1 million of you set foot in the persistent universe in 2023. This isn't a ton of info. going back to our last one, we got a ton more info about when players were getting in, how that progress was looking. I am betting that this graph would not look good if it detailed out the 4 quarters of 2023. And so that's why they're giving us some yearly statements. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just, you know, they just wanted to get past these and move on to the important stuff quickly. But like, we were getting daily active users, monthly active users. Obviously, we got the 1 million logged into the Star Citizen. Yeah. We also were getting like unique players per year, new accounts per year, over 800,000 new accounts this year. You know, it was 2022 was a good year to flaunt that kind of stuff. 2023, there were more than 1.1 million of you. All right, let's move on. The other major milestone in 2023 was welcoming the team at Turbulent fully into the CIG family. Good stuff. Nice. Mrs. Tomato just found a tripod we've been looking for. Sweet. This acquisition allows, sorry, I skipped something. Our partners since the end of 2012, Turbulent, have been responsible for large parts of our online infrastructure and have greatly contributed to our growth and success. This acquisition allows us to streamline our efforts and formally gives us a significant presence in Montreal, Canada, which is a hotbed of video game talent. As part of this acquisition, we gained 2 key senior executives, Benoit Beauséjour, the Chief Technical Officer of Turbulent, who now becomes the CTO of Cloud Imperium and the head of our core technology group. You already will know Benoit from his presentations on our server meshing plans at the last 2 CitizenCons, last 3. He was there at 2021 as well. The second key executive to join our ranks is Marc Boudet, who was the, I guess maybe that's what they're referring to as too, who is the CEO of Turbulent and becomes our Senior Vice President, Studio Operations, in charge of the operations and welfare of the 1,000+ people working on Star Citizen and Squadron 42, spread between our 5 offices in Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Manchester, England, Frankfurt, Germany, and now Montreal, Canada. You know what I'm going to say. Lovely supporters, thank you so much for making this possible. There is a whole video about the acquisition of Turbulent on my YouTube channel, or if you're a Twitch supporter or some other place, it's also available on Discord in that exclusive video section. But it goes over the work that Turbulent has done on Star Citizen over the last decade, why they were acquired, and what that has done to change the game. So check that out if you're interested. As Chris looks back on 2023 with a few months now to reflect and appreciate the hard work of the team around him, he could say that our experience at CitizenCon and the excitement from the community both at the show and in the game as they logged into Star Citizen in record numbers last year left him feeling not only proud but also deeply grateful and reinvigorated for the year ahead. All right, let's talk about the year ahead. This is like where it gets the juice. Can somebody spawn some juice, throw some tomatoes at the screen or something? I need more anticipation in my music. This is also chill. Okay, so we are getting into, there he is. Thanks for that. We are getting into 2024 with a lot of stuff going on, and it looks like, let's see, how does this get laid out? Segment. Okay, I'll try not to cut off too much in between each segment, but honestly, they say a lot of stuff here. So let's just get into it. On Squadron 42, that is taking the game from feature complete to content complete, ensuring the game has the necessary polish and feels worthy of being the spiritual successor to Wing Commander. To this end, the team is hard at work. Somebody said sing mode. Oh my god!
Sing mode!
I'm gonna take this off.
Are you?
I am.
It's not up to you, it's up to chat.
Well, now we're done with the letter for the chairman for a little while, folks. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Now I am singing everything, and I f***ing hate this.
Just 3 minutes. Okay.
Now I'm going to go into a Star Citizen
I want
Live
you to jump in here.
so we can
So
watch
you
this
mentioned
video.
Customizable. You mean
Bye.
you can customize it. We can customize it, not for the player.
We can customize it. So each scopes, they may, and different scopes may have different FOVs and things like that to allow well, not customization, but differentiation between manufacturer. So some might have different modifiers on, different glint angles, and you can pick the one that is, okay, cool, this is how I'm going to play my sniper.
And then when you mention, obviously death is punishing.
Okay.
It's punishing.
Fine, I will stay here and sing, please. Somebody. Mic is open on cam. Y'all hear an echo again? Wow. Okay, it should be off. Sorry about that. Let's talk about anything you guys want to talk about. I love sing mode. This is great. Singing tomatoes. There must be... Yay! Singing!
Do not be a sad tomato.
Let's find somewhere that we can go read some stuff of... This is the first time you've caught me live, and the first thing I do is sing. You can tell I'm not good at it because I start sweating a lot. It's... Da 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 da. Singing, singing, singing. Here we go, we're singing. Singing about toes and games and Star Citizen and yeah. By the way, 10 pound, can you please cut all of this out of the video? Thank you. Because obviously this has nothing to do with the letter. All right. It sounds like singing is all done. Do you guys like my song? It actually ended perfectly with the music. Moist milk. Toes. Oh my god, I'm so sweaty now. That's it. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate you. Hey, we got one sub out of it. Ooh. I do need the wig. I don't know where that is. Oh, here it is. Oh, no worries. It's got a timeout. We make sure that only happens once a stream. Isn't it? Is it not just once a stream? I'm gonna do it now. I'll give you guys an encore at the end. We'll sing the closing from Chris and the special.
No, we'll do once.
Aw.
Because you're doing.
No, I override. I'm overriding.
Oh, you want to sing?
Just the closing, of course. All right. Let's talk about... I got so sweaty. Let's talk about, where were we? Be held in Manchester, England. Okay, I was just talking about that, right? All right, on the Star Citizen front, the teams are preparing to deliver server meshing and expanding the universe of Star Citizen to multiple star systems. It's kind of funny because it's not really a server meshing that we need for star systems. Like, you could always just throw it in as another game container that you have to load into, right? It's like the real special bit of server meshing is when they start to make it multiple star system or multiple servers per star system. That's the real juice. Abdi! Hey, dude. Thanks for making Tomato sweat on stream. It's either that or throw me an arena commander. One of the key milestones of human achievement in the lore of Star Citizen is First Jump Day, when legendary astrophysicist and pilot Nick Croshaw discovered and navigated the first jump point on 10th of April 2271 and became the first human to visit a planetary system beyond Sol. I believe that was... something. I guess it was the Croshaw system. That'd make the most sense, huh? I feel like I have concept art for that. Not worth looking up. Eventually, that system was named Croshaw in his honor. Look at that. His journey was described as the jump that changed the course of humanity and led to the starfaring future we depict in Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Okay, now that's actually really bugging me, because I don't think the Croshaw system was the first one we settled on I don't think that was the first place with a colony. I think that was just the first place we went. The first system with a colony, I'm pretty sure, was... Let's see if I can just scroll all the way down. This one. What is this? Oh, no, it is Croshaw. My bad. I was thinking of the city name. Gele City. Angele City. Yeah, so this is in the Croshaw system. God knows when we'll see these cities enter the game, but they're known for their earthquakes and lava. Neato. You might wonder why I'm telling you this story, he says. Well, a little ahead of the historic date of April 10th, we had our first Jump Day celebration on Star Citizen's Tech Preview channel this weekend. For this test of our progress on server meshing and the replication layer technology, we opened our first functioning jump gates and allowed players to test traveling between our two systems for the first time in our history. All right, so folks in chat who don't think that they're doing things right now, this is at least something, right? Jump points is something. Not quite a character customizer, but you know. Players were able to travel between Stanton and Pyro via wormholes, with each system streaming in and out seamlessly. For those of you interested, our Verse's own Nick Croshaw honor goes to an Evocati member called Mr. Trash. Nick Croshaw, Mr. Trash. It's cool. It could have been a lot worse, right? There could have been a really awkward name in that position. Mr. Trash is okay. I think that makes sense. They believe this was the first in the community to successfully jump. During the test, it is worth highlighting that we also achieved 350 concurrent players in a single shard, setting our new record for concurrent players in a single instance in Star Citizen. So that's like at least 170 in a server, right? That's way more per server than we're seeing even before server meshing. So are they getting better performance on a per server basis? Or is that just something that they're trying to push ahead with because they have the ability to? Mr. Trash made a post in Spectrum. That's cool. We gotta have a Mr. Trash Nebula now. Or just a trash nebula. It looks like a spilled trash can. After many years of work towards a goal many thought was impossible. He had to say that. That many yelled at me was not possible. We are on the cusp of delivering one of the final pieces of technology that will enable a connected, shared universe that thousands of people can experience together at the same time. I invited Benoit, who oversaw this historic test, as our new CTO to share a few thoughts about this monumental milestone he helped bring to fruition. All right. Here's Benoit. As the new Chief Technology Officer at Cloud Imperium, I am thrilled to join the Star Citizen, the CIG family, and lead our technology group. We're dedicated to pushing boundaries, and I'm honored to represent and care for this team of pioneers and trailblazers. One of my first initiatives as CTO was establishing the Technology Preview channel. It's a space where developers can fearlessly test large technology changes with players way before they go live, fostering the spirit of open development within our community. Now, I won't say that one person definitively makes a difference, all the difference in a company. I also won't say that Benoit was the only person who was responsible for the preview channel, but I think this does go to show how much the philosophy that somebody brings to a project can change the way the project looks from the outside. Benoit has always seemed like a good idea for somebody to bring on board with this. Again, I would just, people who are supporters, go watch the video about Turbulent. There have been a lot of signs throughout this whole time that like Benoit and Turbulent has been a really good idea for Star Citizen and for CIG. A lot of what they have done has helped push this game forward alongside a lot of the other devs who are currently working at CIG and were in the past. But man, they've just really, really happy to have Turbulent on board, and I hope that they can keep, stability, health, and a good development setting for people. Dead Set, thank you for the sub, my friend. 38 months just subbed up for. Wow. We're good. We're good. How you doing? How's your week? Or how was your weekend? Still do got to manage the jump point transition, but yeah, the multi-servers per system is the biggest thing. Wonder how they plan to make that work. I mean, it's kind of like what they did at CitizenCon, right? Just bigger. She can't hear that from here. Let's see. All right. So in 2024, our server meshing journey is hitting its stride after years of dedication. We're closing in on the original vision we set out to achieve. This journey started long ago with the introduction of streaming capabilities to Star Engine like client-side object container streaming, followed by server-side object container streaming, and progressing to persistent entity streaming to maintain the entire game world. Every step has been building towards our goal to support MMO-level player populations in a high-fidelity game environment of large magnitude. So if we go back to the letter from the chairman in May of 2022, again, this is when persistent entity streaming worked behind closed doors. This wasn't even when it came to the game a year ago. This is when it was just starting to get working for them, and they were proving it was possible. They released this little roadmap here. It kind of shows this whole path of development that server meshing has been going through. Okay, and I can't zoom in on this, so luckily I have this picture downloaded. And I can just pull it up on my computer, wherever it is. There we go. So, all the way back in 2018, 3.0 had just been released, and it was awful. Have you guys, y'all remember that? Who was here? Show of hands. Who was here for the Great Drought, for the freaking weekly burn down, and for, this is the wrong browser. The Great Drought, the weekly burn down, the terrible performance. Where the heck? Oh man, did I get rid of it? I did. You gotta go real far back. 3.0 had just dropped and the game was terrible. I mean, we must have been averaging like 10 frames per second across the community, right? There was no telemetry page, okay? There was no inventory. There was no sharing missions with other people. There was no sending money to other people. You couldn't buy ships in game. You couldn't rent ships in game. There really, I would say probably like half the ships we have now. We hadn't gotten an update in a year. Like, if you thought that the 3.18 delay was bad, at least we got features. Like back at this time, things were not fun. Just to put it lightly. Object container streaming was not in the game yet, so the game was running at like 10 to 15 frames per second on average. It was like 20 to 40 frames on average. Dang. I was doing terribly then because I couldn't get more than 10. And quite a few people just couldn't really run the game that well. So that was all the way around here. And you know, I bet you I can find you a... Like, yeah, here we go. So, can we open this? Check this out. We didn't even have the freaking quarterly patch cycle. Listen to this. Listen to what the conversation was like back then.
So pivoting back to Star Citizen, remember, we'll have a place for Squadron 42 questions on the Reverse the Verses that follow the Squadron 42 ATV specials. But one of the most common questions we're seeing, I've been seeing for a while, the Delta Patcher. The backers have been waiting for the Delta Patcher for a long time. The Delta Patcher, you know, is what's going to prevent people from having to download every asset of the game every single time. But now that we have the Delta Patcher, we've announced we're only doing 4 patches a year. Is that it? Is it 4 big content patches? But will there be smaller hotfixes?
So there's two, the Delta Patch side anyway, because if you're just waiting for a live patch, yes, then it's probably like because quite a bit will change between builds and so forth and things like that. But if you're actually, like a lot of them, Evocati or people going to the PTU side, when you're downloading a new patch every every day, it makes a massive difference, you know, and so forth and things. And so I guess if you're only downloading it 4 times a year, then it's probably not such a big deal. But it is. I tell you, the change was a massive deal in terms of for a lot of people doing that kind of stuff. But just because we're doing 4 large patches, which is the plan, it doesn't mean we won't maybe do like a smaller patch if we need to for a reason. And hopefully we plan to get the patches in the state, but it may be we might want to patch because we want to introduce some new ships or something or whatever it is. So what we're saying is, look, we're giving you a quarterly patch. These will be nice, big, changes that literally they'll be, get in there and do this stuff. But then it doesn't mean we're not going to just say, well, actually, we might have to do a hotfix or something, or you know what, actually, we've got some cool new content we can put in, which actually the gameplay systems themselves won't change. It's just adding some content to something, that kind of level. Because adding a ship, we keep it in the same branch. But every time we do, and this is one of the discussions I think when we went out and I was talking about the reason why it was important to get 3.0 out last year is because we've been in the 3.0 branch for a long time, but our main development branch is actually game dev. And so the longer you're out of 3.0 and you're trying to get the stuff working, you can't go back to game dev. Now, all the new optimization work, all the stuff things, all the new tool, all the stuff you're trying to do.
For those who aren't following, this was them talking about the Delta patcher, which is basically a patcher that would give you the difference in the updates between the updates. Before, when you got an update, you couldn't download like 17 gigs of stuff. You had to download the whole game all over again. It was crazy. So yeah, this is. Oh, here we go. Here, this will give you some idea of where we were back then. Let me see if I can find. This was a. Where the heck is it? Here? Let's see what they're saying here.
The release of PTU.
Yeah. So this was a crazy thing we had to do basically every week for almost a year because they were trying so hard to get this patch out 3.0 and we needed to get it and it was just not happening. This was a weekly update we had to get on where the bugs were and how close they were to updating the game.
As you may recall, last week our production schedule showed we were at 179 remaining must-fix issues towards the release of PTU across all categories. I'm thrilled to say that the result of all the hard work by the team is that we've burned down enough issues to push 3.0 to PTU to start.
You rock! You know that?
Now from here, we'll be releasing updates to more and more PTU testers until we feel thorough improvements have been completed. Then 3.0 will be released live. Now don't forget to check out
Look at that smile, man. That is relief. So this was back when we were getting things like object container streaming, which, hey, Skippy, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you on the super chat, dude. Good morning, Mr. Tomatoes. This is 2017 footage. Valisoth and Zero, thank you both for the subs as well. Zero gifting that out, and Valis just coming in for the morning. Welcome in, dude. What's up, Lucid? So this was back before we got OCS, Object Container Streaming, which was a big deal because we went from, at least in my experience, sub 12 frames per second gameplay up to like 20 to 30. Some people were seeing consistently over 30 when this happened. Then we got server-side streaming about a year later in 2019. But all of these squares, these are all little things that they were doing in the meantime on the back end. Some of them would show up on the roadmap. Some of them we would never see. Someone we would never even hear about. But this all just continued going on in the background. And I think it was around... where was it? I don't know where. Somewhere in here, they got actual persistence working. So you couldn't actually keep your ships between updates. Every single update that came out would wipe all of your progress. That was before a lot of people were playing. A lot of people joined in after that change happened, but that was around the same time, around 2020 or so. Good timing for the pandemic. So you can see they were starting to do more testing and planning for server meshing before this. Can confirm they were doing R&D with server meshing back here. They had already acquired the patents and the knowledge that they needed to get it initially working. They just hadn't started to build it for Star Citizen specifically. This was still, I think, a lot of R&D stuff going on. But around 2020, 2021, you can see up here that they were starting to do more planning around server meshing, and specifically the iCache and their whole database system. Keep on going through, and you see a lot of different services being worked on until finally 2022, persistent entity streaming. And then a year later, they wanted, at least, and 2 years later actually, server meshing. So it's been a long process. All that to say, it's been a long freaking process, yeah? And a lot of you have been around for that whole time. You know what it's been like. And I think it's hard to quantify that for people who haven't been watching this, or maybe are hearing about this for the first time. They've been doing this for 12 years. Why are they just now doing this tech? Because it was 6 years of work. And when you're building a game engine, and don't forget, they're building a game engine, but also trying to keep the game playable. They can't just sit back and only do game dev. They had to keep an actual playable universe going on. It takes 6 years. The main problem was just that they got started on it so late compared to, you know, the project itself launching in 2012. Zero, thanks for resubbing up, my friend. Do you remember the wipes killing everything and happening frequently? It was a huge deal when they didn't wipe for over a year for the first time. Yeah, that was crazy. That was like one of the best stretches of Star Citizen's gameplay. All right, back to what Benoit was saying. We are gearing up to release the replication layer in 3.23, and this is a big deal. It's the foundation we build the mesh on. As a player, you should perceive this specifically when dealing with server crashes, 30Ks, as those will no longer cause immediate disconnection, but gracefully recover, allowing you to continue to play. Now, a lot of us know that server crashes don't equal 30Ks, but I got corrected on this so much when I said it in my video. 30Ks mean that there is a disconnection from the server. Doesn't necessarily mean the server crashes, but it's how it's just referred to, I think, most of the time. And this is also great news. The crash recovery stuff is good. If you want to learn more about that, just made a video on it last week. For developers, this milestone marks the true separation between the simulation and the replication, a humongous achievement for the game and for Star Engine. But hey, we're not hitting pause there. Oh, no, no, no. We're charging full steam ahead towards launching our first multi-server mesh in 4.0. For this, multiple servers work together to simulate parts of the universe. As a player, this will enable you to visit Pyro through the jump gate, where the jump tunnels transition seamlessly between game servers. Game shards will also host more players, so you should encounter more friends or foes along the way. Kind of cathartic seeing how far they've come, but also how many things they haven't changed. Yeah. It's interesting, though, how many of the things haven't changed since 2018 that are all about to change at the same time. This will mark a new beginning for our game architecture. In the coming weeks and months, get ready for more technical preview tests with various mesh configurations. Multiple game servers per solar system. Bruh. Oh my gosh. They're already talking about testing multiple game servers per solar system. Like, we aren't even getting basic server meshing yet. And they're getting ahead and starting to test the next version, which is going to help us so much more. It's not dynamic server meshing, but multiple servers per system will help a lot. They're also talking about seamless transitions without gates. So that would help in that instance. That's what we saw at CitizenCon and what Citizen Scott was talking about earlier. We're talking about layouts where servers are dedicated to entire planets and moons, others focusing solely on landing zones or other key locations with plenty of higher player count experiments. Again, this is the magic of server meshing. This is why there's so much focus on this tech and why it is seen as Jesus tech, even though we really shouldn't put our hopes all on one thing. But like when you look at the way that Star Citizen runs, from falling through the game to things not loading in to hit register messing up to AI not running to all kinds of stuff, a lot of that goes back to the servers just having too much going on them because they have to handle 100 players all across a 80 million kilometers squared space. It's probably more than that, but like this is a massive area that it has to keep track of all on one server. This idea of multiple game servers per system with seamless transitions, possibly dedicating servers to a single planet or even a single landing zone, That's what everyone's been asking for. Why does Siege of Orison run so terribly? Well, because there's not one single server to handle all of Orison. Why is the Daymar rally running so poorly on Daymar? Oh, well, maybe we could just get a server to run Daymar for a little bit so that it works better. Like, that could be huge for this game. That being said, dynamic server meshing will be a lot better because when you have multiple servers running a star system, that's obviously much more expensive than one server. And if those servers can't resize themselves or shut themselves down when there's no player there, you're kind of running a server for no reason. So dynamic server meshing is the end goal that they probably want to try and skip on to pretty quickly. But this on its own looks amazing. You don't think people appreciate everything they have accomplished? I mean, 5 studios around the world. People only appreciate a game. They want to see a game released, and that's how they will judge whether or not the company has done a good job. And that's fair. This is a company that was formed to make a game, not formed to make 5 studios. It's impressive that they made the 5 studios, but they've got to release something to show for it. I think Squadron 42 will be that something, but until that game is out and we can actually see how good it is, we got to take their word for it. Yeah, if we can get how many did he say? 350 people on 2 servers. That's 170 people in a server, right? What if one server could run one landing zone and you could have 170 people on a single landing zone? What if you could split Stanton into 12 different servers, all of them holding 100 people? Or more, 1,000 people per system, 2,000 people per system. Like, this is the question that we now are starting to face. How far can they scale this up now that they've actually got it working? Benoit said he's genuinely proud of his team. While we face challenges ahead, I'm filled with relentless optimism, knowing that amazing successes are waiting for us. I think he said that last year in one of his videos. 07 from Benoit. Thanks, Benoit. Appreciate you, dude. Keep it coming. As we set our sights on the year ahead, the team remains focused and committed to ushering the community into uncharted territories with the release of Pyro and Star Citizen Alpha 4.0. Oh my god, 4.0. I cannot stress how much this is an inflection point, as it will allow many more players to play together, but also to seamlessly travel to different star systems. All of this points towards 2024 being our biggest and best year yet in the universe of Star Citizen. But Star Citizen 4.0 is not our final destination. And with that, I have more exciting news to share. As we revealed at CitizenCon, with Squadron 42 receiving the feature complete milestone, we are now able to bring features developed for Squadron 42 to the persistent universe at an accelerated rate. As part of this, towards the end of last year, we decided to reorganize the Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams to be more integrated, to facilitate bringing several years worth of feature work and polish to Star Citizen, and finally set our sail out for Star Citizen's own finish line. Okay. It's a shard limit. Well, I hope the shard limit, it's more based on server limit than shard limit, but yeah, I guess can't draw conclusions like that just yet. I have a lot to say about this part. I think these 4 paragraphs say a lot. Let's start at the end and go backwards, yeah? So they're reorganizing their teams and bringing more features from Squadron over to Star Citizen. And they are coming from several years worth of feature work. So that tells me that they've been working on some of these things that we're just now seeing for a lot longer than it appeared. There are different ways to feel about that. Star Citizen is a game that has been completely funded by people who have essentially been driven forward by open communication. Open communication has been a really important part of this game, and an important part of it becoming a good game. The pressure that backers have put on the game at times, I think, has been part of the catalyst of better communication, and maybe times when CIG has pulled back a bit. But several years of work being revealed to us now is a little bit different from open development. And I'm not going to say the S word, but I think that's where a lot of people feel a little bit misled. In that all of the marketing for Star Citizen is getting you into Star Citizen, is getting you playing Star Citizen, excited for Star Citizen. In the meantime, though, you don't even realize there's another game being built with that money, and it's going along apparently quite well in the background. So Squadron 42 was developed as a more traditional game, and clearly that's made it a little bit more successful. maybe that is little bit telling about our own feedback and complications. But this does also mean that there could be a lot of other stuff that we don't know about. And I don't want to start conspiracies. Don't go quoting me and don't go out to other people's chat and start being like, Space Tomato said this. No. Okay. But if they are revealing all of this stuff to us without us really noticing, there are several other things they've talked about in the very distant past that have just disappeared that we haven't heard about. Talking about Terra. They have shown us armor concepts for Terran security. I'm pretty sure those armor concepts were used for something else, but it did show that they were at least working in that direction. That was, I think, about 4 years ago. The Aaron Halo Belt, which is a really, really big part of the Stanton system, actually, like, defining part of the Stanton system. It splits the system in half, essentially. That also has not really been talked about, but we know it got a lot of work on it. What else is there? Oh, boy. I guess creatures is one of those things, but now we all kind of know that's coming up. There's just a lot of things that have been worked on in the back, and I don't think Star Systems would be so out of the realm of possibilities. At least Nyx, and maybe Terra or Castra. But also they openly shared iCache progress. They've done good and bad in different areas throughout the years. There's no doubt in that. Let them cook. What is going on with my dog? Huh? Have we heard anything about Quanta in a while? No. No, we have not. I'm not getting triggered. Oh yeah, planet orbits around the stars. That's also something. Yeah. We could just go through. Honestly, one of these days we'll have to do a deep dive of just going through these old episodes around the verse. There's plenty of things in here that people will say, oh, they introduced that and they're never going to bring it out. It just hasn't come around yet. All of this stuff is going to come back into the game at some point. And ooh, one of the other things they talked about back around this time, abandoned space stations. That was on the roadmap at one point. Derelict space stations were on the full-on release view roadmap, and then they just were gone for like 5 years. And now they showed up at CitizenCon as something that we'll be able to experience in Pyro. So like things are going to keep showing up, and that's something that I think this really communicates to us. What else was here though? Release of Pyro, cannot stress how much of an inflection point this is. Allowing more players to come together. All this points towards 2024 being our biggest year. 4.0, it's not our final destination. They're speaking really confidently about 4.0 this year, which is good to see. Tony. No, I feel you, Scott. They've picked the first 5 systems, but haven't revealed the list to us. Have they? Did they talk about that? Five systems were picked with 1.0. I think that when they finally got around to making planets, they had said something like that. I don't know if that was ever an official statement or what, but I think people are kind of expecting around 5 systems. Yeah, more systems is not something I would bank on, but again, there's hefty evidence that they are not telling us every little thing. Which again, you know, from the perspective of the principle of open development, I think is rough. But as a backer and a fan and a, I guess, content creator around the game, I like it. I like not knowing everything. It's so much better to expect less and receive more than to expect all of it and then maybe get that, which we're very, very familiar with. Okay. While we recognize that there is no definitive finish line in an online MMO, and that we will always be adding new features and content for many, many years to come, that's the whole there's never a release kind of thing. Star Citizen 1.0 is what we consider the features and content set to represent commercial release. This means that the game is welcoming to new players, stable, and polished with enough gameplay and content to engage players continuously. In other words, it is no longer alpha or early access. Much like we planned out Squadron 42's drive to feature complete and the upcoming content complete status, we spent significant time looking at what Star Citizen 1.0 means and what it would take to get there. Okay. That's just 2 years though, right? Star Citizen 1.0 is kind of a big statement, but clearly I think they're trying to move out of alpha pretty quickly. It seems that they want to get out of alpha, I would guess by the end of next year, and then maybe spend like 8 months to a year in beta to wait until it's content complete. But they might be trying to get out of alpha earlier than that, maybe beginning of next year, because, you know, I honestly did not expect how quickly all these features were getting added. And again, I think that's because we just didn't know all of this stuff getting worked on. But the change of the mobiGlass with all of the UI, the mapping, and the FPS stuff, I think those are all really central systems that I didn't expect to see updated so quickly. And it makes me think that maybe they can get out of the alpha phase pretty fast. But man, what does 1.0 even mean? What's included in 1.0? Griffin's thinking they might not do any sort of beta phase. That's interesting. That would be interesting. Not like a polishing phase. So the hard part of defining a 1.0 is what does a finished game look like in this sense? Like this specific finished game. There are so many different ideas of what a finished game is, of what it would include. I mean, one place we could start is going back to the 2016 CitizenCon. 2017, I think, actually. Where is it? Star Citizen, Bug Smashers, Gamescom. Here we go, CitizenCon. Cool. So I think it's here. No, this is not it. It's one more year before this, 2016. 1.0 needs to include every single thing they've ever sold and 100% of its relevant gameplay. That ain't gonna happen, man. I don't think we'll have the Endeavor for 1.0, for instance. Oh, this is too far back. Gamescom. Around the verse. Here we go. CitizenCon. Needs to come whenever we get player shops. Need that for the... Oh, I'm guessing you're talking about the Bandit Merchantman. You fully expect farming and science professions to not be in 1.0. I think farming will be in. I think farming is one of those things they haven't talked about, but they've been working on. We saw farming updates. In fact, I can show you briefly here. This is just another time when, like, if I had the sound to this, you would be able to hear it. But this is meant to show the progression of certain plants as you're farming with them. And they gave that to us in 2021. So definitely something they're working on. They also were showing us seasonal changes in foliage as planets orbit the moon. So like when it comes to flora and the way that it's affected by its surroundings, they've been working on that. Might be something we see. I think they will need to start some farming loop with base building. They showed farming in the base building clip at CitizenCon. Yeah, seasons will be very cool. So look at this. This is a pretty big tell of the kinds of things they want to be in. So we know that they want to have cargo transport, piracy, smuggling, mercenary, bounty hunting, and trading. So all of these professions will be very locked down, polished, probably have some voice-acted missions, probably some narrative gameplay, and a lot of choices, reputation, factions, and different places you can do all of that in different systems. So this is a given, right? These are all basic. We know all of these. Mining, refining, and refueling are the more industrial-focused professions. Mining is pretty far along already, but I will get a lot more of the same treatments. Salvaging, which is not here, is actually past mining in terms of missions, but not quite up to standard with mining in implementation or features. So that'll probably see a lot of updates too. We still don't have like fuel and oxygen siphoning. We don't have all the abilities to salvage components, and yeah, data siphoning as well. Quantum interdiction is part of being a pirate. That's going to be something that has to be reworked with the quantum change this year. Refining and processing, again, that's just another profession. So all of these professions you're seeing here, these all have to have a ton of missions and a ton of supporting gameplay. That's the biggest part of 1.0 in my opinion. Locations come next, and ships obviously are in there too. Moving forward to the next one, there's salvage and repair also. Mercenaries getting new stuff, new ships, yada yada yada. And then we've got farming and rescue missions. These are probably kind of included in investigation missions, but farming is obviously going to be a big thing because drugs are a big thing in this game. So making drugs and shipping them may or may not be a big part of GII's business, but it also is something that I think a lot of people want to do. And we have livestock, so there might be that too. Do I think they will ever do a release 1.0 with, let's say, 5 to 10 systems? Yes. But I don't think they're going to start charging for DLC, no. Because all of those systems were pledge goals. Those are included in the game. Feels like exploration should be a thing by 1.0. Exploration is going to be a thing in the next update. 3.23 is the launch of exploration, as far as I'm concerned. We're going to get a database and the ability to save waypoints. At that point, you can explore and make money from just flying places and finding things. All these professions need basic game loops, and the ships they sold need to be in game. I think the professions will be there. I don't think the ships will, honestly. Like, look at how many ships they need to do. If we're talking 3 years for a 1.0 launch, I don't know, man. Maybe. But I don't know. Can you sell waypoints in 3.23? I don't know if you can sell them, but if you can store them, that means that you can, like right now, as Feathers is saying, in the game right now, you can fly your ship somewhere, leave the ship there, go out in the global chat and be like, hey, I've got this amount of minables here. Who wants it? They tell you they want it. They send you the money. You give them a party marker. That's exploration. It's just not easy. So with data points, I don't know if you'll be able to share them, but the fact that they exist means that exploration is going to get a lot easier to make a living from. So yeah, let's this is the best part of this whole thing. 4.0. What's not on this slide is that they expected 4.0 to be there 1 year from this presentation. It was supposed to be 4 quarters, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and then 4.0. That didn't happen. When did CIG state that we can save and set waypoints? Well, they initially said it was with the maps function, but it's also showing up in the I don't think it's the patch notes. I'm not sure if it's patch notes or what, but some of the leaks do emphasize data bank. Now, that's not official information, so we might not actually get it in 323, but it's in the code. It's being worked on. So if it's not 323, then sometime this year, I think exploration will be more formalized. So in 4.0, they expected travel to multiple star systems, exploration and discovery. I don't know what they meant by that. And science and research. Don't know what they mean by that either. But these are also things that need to be very fleshed out for a 1.0 launch. That being said, though, the only other time we really have a good sense of what they wanted to do for a launch prospect in this game would be, I think, 2018 CitizenCon. Here, road to release.
Piece of the puzzle.
So listen to this.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things. That's why we call it the persistent universe, is that it has a life and a persistence, and people's actions will mean something in it. And that's a very, very important part of the 11th pillar. And the last one, if we go forward, Paul, is server meshing. So when we get server meshing, that is, we think, the last piece of the puzzle to have the full game experience. And this is our ability to go, right now we have about 50 players on a server. We probably will be able to increase that number because of bound coloring and stuff, but it's still going to cap out at a certain level. With server meshing, we'll be able to get to thousands of players playing concurrently in the same locations, star systems. They're not all going to be able to have 1,000 people dogpiling together. They won't be able to render it all at the same time, but you certainly will be able to have 1,000 people on the planet of Hurston, for instance. So the server meshing is the last key piece, because that will allow us to have a truly massively populated universe of players as well as AI, and having servers that dynamically scale up and down to take care of the processing needs of that. And so from our standpoint, in terms of what we would think is the experience when you guys can sit in and play the game day after day and not worry about it getting wiped, not worrying about, I'm going to do something for a day or two and there's no point because they're going to reset the system.
See that? It sounds like he's describing 1.0 right there. It also could sound like he's describing just like beta, but even then, even if there's no wipe for 2 years, there's still a wipe. So here it sounds like he is literally talking about 1.0 launch. And I think this is one of the only times I really remember him hinting at that.
Day after day, and not worry about it getting wiped, not worrying about, I'm going to do something for a day or two and there's no point because they're going to reset the system. When we get to full persistence and server meshing, that's our marker. And sure, after that, we've got planets to do and star systems, and we're going to have continual feature development. But this is an online live game, and so for us, we don't have a particular viewpoint in terms of, that's it, this is where we finish it, and we don't do any more work. It's like literally, we kind of view, as long as you guys want to live in this universe, every 3 months, we're giving you a build, and here you are, and here's a bit more, and here's a bit more, and here's a bit more. And when we get to the full persistence and server meshing, I think at that point, that's when we're not going to be resetting the servers. It's when it will be an ongoing, living, breathing game.
So he's kind of muddling it a little bit there, but he is saying that like once persistence is here, right, with PES, and server meshing is here with server meshing, and they're working stably, I think what he's saying is that's our technological milestone, not our content milestone. That's not a 1.0, but that's when we know we don't have to keep messing around with wipe slots. So maybe not quite 1.0 he's talking about, but it's all a little how you interpret it, I think, right? I'm sure you guys are hearing it a little bit differently than I am. Let's see if he says any more though.
That, I'm not going to give you a date, but
he gave many dates after that.
But you can watch on our roadmap as we develop it, and just watch for that, because us internally, those are what we view as our sort of cornerstones that we need to get to. And yes, there's a lot of other things that we've talked about that we're also working on, but when we get that, we feel like it will be a game like no other. So that is kind of what we in terms of road to release. But speaking of near-term release, 3.3, I think we're going to go wide to PTU.
Ah, back in the day, 3.3. So this is all just, this has all been coming along. But yeah, that was what he was talking about back then in terms of like a release. And you know, that's one way of maybe defining what a 1.0 might look like. But we could also go through the freaking progress tracker, which is massive and long and not really worth it for most people to go through. And you can look at some of the more in-depth features, some of the stuff that's in here, and it gives you an idea of what the game's supposed to look like. But there is a ton of stuff that's missing from here that I think is needed for a 1.0 launch. A lot of polish, a lot of things that we can even see right now that haven't been updated. And I'm wondering if this is kind of falling behind. Like like what's going to happen with this? It almost feels like this is a little bit too much work to keep updated. Then again, of course, I know they're doing work on it. Like an update's going to come. I just wonder as we get further and further into this game and more of the resources need to be put towards the actual things going towards the development instead of just the tracking of it. And less people are watching the roadmap like hawks because we have more game to play. How long will this keep getting updated regularly? Feels like they just decided to can it with the 1.0 talk. Can what? When do I think the Galaxy will come out? Next year, maybe? Oh, with the 1.0 talk, they just decided to can the progress tracker. That'd be interesting. But for 1.0, man, I think I'm gonna work on a video for that. The different pillars that need to be handled for 1.0. Ships have got to have all of their gold standard updates, right? We got to have maelstrom damage. Got to have a fully functional heat system, flight aerodynamics. The maelstrom damage system, I think I said that. Engineering needs to work on all of them. They should all have the standard buttons, the lights in the right places, the ability to do all the things that you need on the ship to get around. All of the working inventories on ships. The buttons are all physically movable. Like, this is a lot of work that goes into just ships. And then you got to talk about FPS gameplay. We're seeing a big update with that, with things like the scopes and the looting inventory and the personal interaction system. All that needs to be buttoned up and properly working in every instance for a 1.0. Then you talk about missions. We're going to need mission givers with fully voiced lines on most of the landing zones, in most of the systems. All of those mission givers will have to have reputations. They'll have to have communication and relationships with the other factions in the system. Those factions will have to have missions that you can go and run, and lootable stuff and findable collectibles and all that. We also have to get things figured out with ship customization. How are paints going to work? Is this going to be a method of monetization, or are characters and players going to be able to do this stuff? They're going to have to figure out ship sales. How can they do ship sales and continue to do it and justify it? But, you know, like, can they release concept ships at a less popular rate? Maybe they're only the big fancy ships and not the starter ships, or maybe just the starter ships. There's so many details to figure out for 1.0 that I don't even think you could make one video on it. Atmospheric flight physics, yep. More FPS missions. I mean, don't even get me started on missions. So much. You could go back to a lot of these different demos too and just look at things that were included. They need support for large oceans. They need support for lava, for sandworms, for sand dunes. They need different types of anomalies in space. Things that you can explore like comets and asteroids. It's almost never ending. And I think a lot of that will come in a bit more basic form for 1.0 and not a fully fleshed out version. But we're going to have plenty of time to discuss what that means together. So I won't keep going into it right now. They don't talk about beta, but in the TOS, they say that CCU upgrades don't want to be sold after beta release. Interesting. Their engagement will skyrocket with release. You don't think they'll stop sharing dev insight? People will love to watch it. This is still a really niche game, and there's already a ton of people who are interested in that stuff. Squadron 42 is being measurably deliverable will be a big part of CIG and Star Citizen's success. I think that's make or break. I think if Squadron 42 doesn't do well, I worry about CIG. Drone gameplay, that's another one. And yeah, there needs to be a whole experience for starting the game too. Not just missions, not just tutorials, but like a narrative experience that drives you through it all. Agreed, Chala. All right. So, back to the letter. To facilitate this 1.0 launch, I am pleased to share that our very own Richard Tyrer will be taking on a new role as Senior Game Director, overseeing both the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42 alongside me. Big ups, Rich. With this change, you'll start to see a more rapid expansion of features and content coming from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen. Starting with Alpha 323, which is shaping up to be one of our biggest releases to date in terms of new features getting into players' hands. When we announced at CitizenCon that we would be bringing across feature work that we had developed and refined in the push to feature complete for Squadron 42, we were not kidding. As game director on Squadron 42, Rich played a crucial role in helping steer Squadron 42 to its current feature complete status. Under his stewardship, Squadron 42 experienced a significant surge of progress, a momentum we fully anticipate will continue to carry us towards content complete, beta, and release. I would love to hear more about this. Oh my gosh. How much was he actually involved in pushing Squadron fast? And like, where was it when he came on? Let's go back to where that was. I bet we can find that pretty easily. Because when he came on, they were definitely talking about making some significant changes to the way they worked. And I would love to know where Squadron 42 was at that time that he did actually help so much in pushing it forward. Let's see, Sandy and Chris checking in. Somewhere in here. He talked there. And he talked again. Get rich or die try. There it is. Okay. Here it is. Hey, catch you later, Commodore.
Hi,
See you
everybody.
around. All right, so listen to this. This is what we're about to talk about. Is this guy Richard Tyrer? He's getting promoted. He's getting promoted in a freaking big time to work alongside Chris Roberts, right? So obviously he did something good. What we're going to look at now is his introduction to whatever game, whatever position they gave him where he did all this good stuff that he's now getting promoted. So this is, I think, before they kind of got him in charge of Squadron. And they're talking about why that's happening.
You've your new title is Squadron 42 FPS Game Director.
That is correct.
And with that, you're going to be moving from the day-to-day activities of putting stuff into Star Citizen and moving towards a more Squadron 42 focus. With that, let's talk. Let's set the table here. Let's talk about how your team and its work had previously straddled the line between Star Citizen and Squadron 42.
So the first thing to note is that while my title has changed, my previous role of core gameplay director or core gameplay pillar director is still there. I'm still doing that. This is just in addition to that. So the way that we worked was that obviously the company or Cloud Imperium is set up into these pillars. And each of the pillars has representative teams that have areas of expertise on that pillar. So the core gameplay pillar essentially incorporates the actor feature team and the actor tech team, the weapon feature team, and the weapon content team. And it did used to incorporate Fire Sprite as well for Arena Commander. So those four teams, as you're probably well aware, are dedicated and focused around all of the character gameplay in Star Citizen, and some additionals, because we also have like a floating team on the pillar, which is like the core gameplay design team.
Right.
And that's like what you'd classify as like technical designers and system designers, and some companies call them essentially game designers. But we're basically dedicated to making anything to do with the character, like the camera, actor status, but we also own things like physical damage, radar and scanning for both ships and the player. So the way that we worked is that I would always discuss it with Chris, what's the intention for a specific feature, whether that's inventory, healing, actor status, trolley push pull, you name it. Then I would then work with the teams to kind of bring those things to the PU. But the way that we designed the features is that we would sit down and discuss with kind of like the PU leadership. So Todd, Tony, Ian, those guys. And then also on the S42 side, where, you've got Nick Elms, you've got Brian Chambers, you've got Nate. And what we'd do is we'd generally sit down with the design directors or the game directors and go, okay, and this would be with Chris, and we talk about a feature and be like, and I kind of get an understanding of how we want to use it, because obviously on my pillar, I'm also responsible for the FPS experience. So in terms of how that experience is supposed to be delivered in both Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And that's always been the case and will still be the case in this new change. But the deal is that we'd look at these features and go, okay, how are we going to use these features in the games? So we go, okay, so let's take trolley push pull, for example. And I actually wrote about this, some of the pitfalls of this development in some of the retrospectives that I did in the last 2 quarters.
Trolley push pull.
But the way we'd work is we get the trolley push pull system and we go, okay, right, how's it going to be used in the PU? Well, in the PU, maybe it's going to be used for cargo and moving things around, and also for what you'd expect, like puzzles. So when you go to mission, maybe I can't get access up high. I need to move something so I can then mantle it and climb up. The stereotypical, action adventure type of puzzle. And that's really where it's more appropriate in Squadron, because obviously Squadron has all the same content in terms of like the vehicles and the armor and so on. And then Squadron has its own specific things. PU has its own specific things. But how you use these features, we will always deliver something in a systemic fashion. So for example, if we were just making a single player game, you could make trolley push pull just be a movable physics object and be done with it. Because we know it's going into the PU, we went the extra mile and be like, okay, well, it needs to take into account there's different gravity that you can be in, or other people can jump on that because it's a multiplayer game, and you've got vastly different cargo weights, and so we have to take that into account. And so what we do is we take all of that information and we distill it down into a system or a game design, what we want. And then obviously my job is to make sure that we're distilling that down and that fits into the overall vision and experience of the game, both Squadron and Star Citizen, in coordination with Todd, Tony, Chris, and Nick, and so on and so forth. And essentially we would tier it in a way. So we'd start off with a tier 0. And the tier 0 would be, what is the minimum viable product that we can push this development piece to the live audience to kind of garner feedback and gather feedback and then tweak it. But because we're such a big company and we have such big releases, generally by the time we've released a tier 0, we're already well into another feature. And then the T1 kind of comes at a later date. So for example, a really good example of this is Actor Status T0. We released in about 2018. I remember we talked about it at CitizenCon. I think it was the patch after CitizenCon.
What he's starting to describe here is the way that they shifted their development to focus so much more on Squadron 42. They were very wordsy about explaining this to us, but the idea was we are shifting a lot of our efforts more towards Squadron 42, and him moving towards Squadron 42 was a big part of that. Again, this is 2021 this was happening, so really it was like a 2-year push, really like a 2-year sprint for them, but it made a big difference, clearly, and we didn't get to see that up until just a few months ago. So a lot of people who just recently showed up, a lot of the excitement around these features is because we were up from here until CitizenCon. we were just constantly like, okay, you're talking about making features for Squadrons so that they come out better, but where are they? And then finally at CitizenCon this last year, it happened. But this episode, this talk was the beginning of that.
Which was hypothermia and hypothermia, and then and eating and drinking. And then since then, we did a force reaction update, which tied into that. And then now we're about to do Active Status T1, which is the next extension. But if you were working as a traditional game development, which is like a not as a live product, you'd probably do them all continuously. You wouldn't do a tier 0 2. You'd just be like, you would make it in that manner, and you would play.
AKA, I really don't like the way we're doing the Star Citizen development. I want to make Squadron 42 features so that they work well, and then we'll put them in Star Citizen. Thanks.
Yourself to get an idea of is this right? Does it feel good? And then work towards it. But obviously, because we've got the PU and a live audience, we're able to leverage that community feedback, and they go, okay, it's not working in these environments. It's not working well here. How do we do this? And generally, a lot of the time on the core gameplay pillar, and again, this is the double-edged sword, is that we release a lot of features into the PU when they're ready to be used, but they're not necessarily fully integrated into the gameplay experience. So, for example, melee combat or body dragging or trolleys, they're three really good ones that are fully functioning features. But if they were being used in an action adventure or squadron or whatever, they would be integrated into, like, you're using them for a purpose. And we've released them into the wild to kind of get feedback and that, but they've not been fully utilized yet. And generally that's because on the core gameplay pillars, we will work on a feature and we'll work towards it becoming functional. And then once we have it, we will then coordinate with a content team. So generally, whether that's the locations team or UP, also, for example, healing needs hospitals, it needs medical beds, or for hacking's another example. We can release hacking, but that's just the game, the system. We've done all the UI, all the audio, the physical interactions of you putting the hacking chip in, but it still needs to have a purpose in the game. Like, well, where do you use it? When do you use it? It needs to go and have the chips in the shops. So we coordinate with what I call, like, we have feature teams, which is kind of what my pillar is set up to. We also have the weapon content team, which is a weapons pipeline and does all the weapons and something. But we coordinate with the general content team to then push it in or create missions. And so that's kind of how we've always worked, and we would do the same and give it to the level. So the squadron level design team, for example, is a content team. So we would be there at the top developing these features in coordination with the other leadership, and then we deliver it to the content teams to then kind of execute into the
the kicker,
individual projects. The way it kind of works right now is that we would deliver it maybe before the content teams will have access to it, and then they'll put a wrapper around it. But that's kind of how it's previously worked. To be honest, it's kind of unique in game development. It's not something that happens everywhere. I mean, it's something that's definitely new. I've only ever seen at Cloud Imperium, but it's the nature of how we're developing all of these different projects.
When was the active feature team created? 2015, 2016?
Well, Jens is probably the first. I think. Yeah, we're talking. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the first ones. I think we're talking a while ago.
Okay, so that's how the team has worked from then up until now. Now, obviously, while we don't necessarily talk about it all the time because we want to preserve many of the surprises, the plot points, the character points of Squadron 42, development of Squadron 42 has been continuing right alongside Star Citizen this whole time.
Yep.
Recently, we recognized we identified a need for a change with Squadron 42, with the way that we've been developing Squadron 42. Talk to me about what we realized, what that need was.
So the biggest thing is kind of how I discussed there. You have the feature team and you have the content teams. The biggest thing is that we wanted to create a closer relationship between the people who are making the features and the content, and especially considering I'm the arbiter, or I'm responsible for the FPS experience. So when we've had discussions with Chris and talking about it, we wanted to create a closer relationship between the feature teams and the level designers, who are basically the people who are they're essentially the client who are utilizing these features. And with Nick, who's the current creative director on Squadron 42, Nick Elms, we wanted, obviously Squadron's a big project, and because we've got such a kind of a good delineation between like the FPS and the vehicle side of things. There was two kind of things that we identified. One is that Nick could use some support so that he could kind of really focus on the flight side of things, which is where all of his experience has been, so that he can really hone down on that and really work with John on the vehicle pillar and that side of things and push that forward. And on the actor side was that we wanted a closer relationship between the technical designers and the systems designers, because the technical designers can help more on the technical side of things with implementing like AI and so on and so forth. So there was lots of these different individual reasons, like a closer relationship with AI in terms of the technical implementation with the engineers, with the level designers, and kind of bridging that gap, which is usually a traditional pipeline. It's just something that the way the pillars are set up, it kind of creates this two-step process. So that's where kind of I came in to kind of come over. So essentially all of the FPS level design teams and the social teams on Squadron, essentially anything related to do with the character gameplay, they're kind of coming and being absorbed onto the core gameplay pillar. And that's why I said I'm still doing the core gameplay pillar direct. That's still a role that I fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I just have a superseding role that kind of encompasses that plus the level design aspect. So that's
important note there is he handled the actor feature team, right? The core gameplay. So things like mantling, platforming, reloading, gunplay. Do you get cold? Do you get hot when you get shot? What happens? How does your armor work? How does your interaction system work? How does your menu work? All of those things are like core gameplay, it's in the monthly report section. That's what he was under. And that's why so much of the stuff that's coming from Squadron 42 seems to be focused on that core gameplay, as opposed to stuff that would more heavily affect Star Citizen, like, I don't know, exploration or cargo hauling. Those aren't the core gameplay Squadron 42 focused stuff, so we're not seeing those as polished right now. That's more of the stuff that'd be worked on in the coming years. But this really goes to show just how much of the focus went towards Squadron 42 for a couple of years, so that we could finally get to the point we're at right now, which is focus is coming back to Star Citizen. Most important part of all of this.
That's where I'm coming on to help out on the game direction for the FPS side of things, and kind of skipping a beat, because what would happen is we go, okay, this is a feature that we want to introduce, like trolley push pull or whatever, or any of the weapons or armor or any of the other mechanics we want. And then there'll be a step of teaching that to the level designers and what they need to do. But now they're going to be part of that process, which is a more traditional way of doing it. Generally, you would sit down and you would work, the level designers and the system designers and the technical designers, they kind of work together alongside like the environment artists and the animators and so on. And they'd work together to create a thing. So for example, let's say I take body dragging. If we were going to make body dragging, generally what you do is you go, hey, we've got a level, it's a stealth level. We need to be able to hide the bodies so that, other people don't see you. That's part of the mechanic. And we go, cool, we'll implement body dragging for that level and make it work. And so what we do is we're going to start doing that process. So we're going to start implementing these features within Squadron, but still taking into account the PU considerations, because that's still part of my responsibilities. And then they will go to the content teams, but it will hopefully they'll be more proven and more executed because we've already implemented them into actual real gameplay scenarios, rather than like test maps or testing out theories and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Let me see if I can put this in a little context for some folks. While the Star Citizen universe is a sandbox, it's open, wide sandbox. Squadron 42 is, and this may seem obvious, but for new people who have joined the project recently, maybe it's not. It's a very a directed experience. It's a streamlined experience. We're telling a specific story for a single-player adventure, and a lot of that. And while it's at its heart, it's a space sim. There's a lot of outer space stuff. There is a significant amount of FPS gameplay in Squadron 42.
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, if you
he's not wrong, but that's where that all comes from. All right, let's move. Let's listen to what actually Rich Tyrer has to say about all this now. So that's kind of his story. That's where he's coming into this picture from for a lot of people, but he's been around for a little while. He started at CIG at 2019, and clearly he's done a lot since he's got there. So what he had to say was, firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to say how great it is to be back working on Star Citizen. Some of you may already know me, but I was the core gameplay pillar director before I moved over to become the game director on Squadron 42 a few years back. That's what we just watched. With this new role, I will be coming on board to help push Star Citizen to the next stage of its development, ultimately culminating in leaving early access and releasing the 1.0 version of the game. This begins with identifying what features and content are required to create a fully realized space MMO while laying the foundations for future updates. To be 100% clear though, this doesn't mean going back to the drawing board or totally changing the vision of what Star Citizen currently is. With this aim, Chris and I have overseen the creation of a roadmap that takes us all the way up to 1.0 and outlines all the features and content we need, and just as crucially, the ones that will come post-release. A lot of good clarity there. We're gonna reach some level of release for 1.0, but it's not gonna have all the features, or at least all the features that, you know, we will end with. Chris already said that before though. With my role now overseeing both projects with Chris, and the fact that Squadron 42 has hit its feature complete milestone, it has provided an opportunity to reshuffle the teams. This should see a large contingent of gameplay teams now coming back to focus on Star Citizen. We've also taken the opportunity to move away from heavily specialized teams like the actor feature and vehicle feature to more generic gameplay teams that should allow us to be a lot more flexible and shoulder some of the heavier burdens those teams used to carry. We're noticing that in the monthly reports. What page was this? I think it was this. Was it this one? This one? This one? It's here. If you go back to the monthly reports here. So here we have features arena commander, features mission. Usually there is a features gameplay team. Sometimes there's like different features teams, right? See if I can open up one more. Features character and weapons, features gameplay, features vehicles, all kinds of features teams that they were reporting on. But if you go to now our current monthly reports, you'll see that all of that has been consolidated into what they're now calling core gameplay. And I feel like this signifies a lot more cohesive work between them because the basics are now getting figured out. They don't need to be so detailed with it. Seems to be saying the same thing here. While these teams will still be instrumental in shipping Squadron 42, they will now be focused on bringing all the existing features over to Star Citizen, as well as working on brand new features like base building and crafting to help round out the 1.0 experience. Can confirm base and crafting in 1.0, but also the way that he's talking about this, a large contingent of gameplay teams now are coming back over to SC. Like, how much of that has happened already? How much more of these teams need to move back over? Should we be expecting even more of an increase in production? With every release going forward, the intention is to move ourselves closer to that end goal. So you should expect to see large updates each quarter. With each quarter is a big statement. Because if we go to our roadmap, we've got our Q2 update is in April, right? So technically we should have a Q3 update in probably August. Wait, when is the no. Q1 update is in March. Q2 update usually ends at the end of July, right? So we might not see another update until October, if this is our Q2. So every quarter could mean one thing or another. I don't know if we're going to get another summer update after 323. But yeah, each quarter with many changes to systems that have not been touched in a long time, like economy, insurance, etc. Alongside a whole suite of quality of life improvements to things like inventory, missions, Mobi-Glass, etc. Coupled with totally brand new features and content. Wish we could know more about those. We have set very ambitious goals for ourselves internally, both for the game and technology teams, but Chris and I truly believe they are achievable, and hopefully you can start to see that progress starting with 323 and beyond. I look forward to seeing what happens after 323. That's an exciting patch, but we're in the unknown with server meshing. We don't know when that'll work. Will they have to throw in another patch before 4.0? If not, then what will be in 4.0? Very exciting times. They want 4.0 in it over the summer, but we'll see. The fact that this is showing up as our Q2 update instead of just saying it was our Q1 update and releasing it in March like normal, or releasing it in April like normal, because even our old Q1 updates would release in April. April 17th, April 29th, April 22nd. Like, all of these are late April. April 29th for 317. So why wouldn't they just put 323 here as a Q1 patch with a late April release, unless they were worried that it might slip further into Q2 and want to reserve the whole quarter for it? I don't know. That's called reading too much into the details, my friends. Enjoy the tea. Everyone's hyped on something different. It's interactions for you, but all those things are just little slices of the full version. Yeah. What do you mean by mission creep? Each quarter of a decade. I wish they would go into more detail about what these things include. So, we know base building and crafting will be pretty fully featured for a 1.0 release, right? The economy obviously has to be in a good place. Insurance has to be figured out. Health insurance or life insurance, I guess, has to be figured out, which means Death of a Spaceman would have to be figured out. So we'll probably start hearing more about that soon. Player shops, buying and selling things from and to players will probably need to be pretty hefty. Wouldn't it be difficult to get revenue from Squadron 42 when eyes are focused on GTA 6? Nah. I mean, I think both Baldur's Gate and Starfield had amazing launches in terms of sales figures and people interested, and that was like the same month. Tons of gamers out there. Also, I think GTA 6 and Squadron 42 are going to be a bit... I think they'll have some overlap, but Squadron 42 is very much like a cinematic kind of opera game, whereas GTA 6 is more of a get out there and do whatever you want kind of game. But I guess they have good stories for Grand Theft Auto, so we'll see. The word is 1.0 to be launched with 5 systems. Where are you getting that from? A couple of people have said that, and I do know that they mentioned that at one point, but I was just wondering if that's something they've said more recently. Yeah, bed logging will be a thing. That's going to be a thing they have to figure out too. A lot of players hold that backspace, but that's where the Death of a Spaceman comes in. Yeah, Squadron 42 will definitely not have anywhere near the awareness of GTA 6. GTA 6 will probably be the biggest game launch in history, right? I was thinking about a year ago, I would have said Star Citizen 1.0 5 years away. I would have thought 2027 maybe or something like that. Guess I'll just recalibrate my time to 1 year earlier. All right, continuing on, working in tandem. Rich and I, we're back at Chris's perspective now. Rich and I will continue to establish the strategic vision to bring to life the intended Star Citizen gameplay experience. As Rich said, over the past few months, our teams have been busily planning the upcoming major milestones for the persistent universe, culminating in what we refer to as Star Citizen 1.0. As that roadmap comes together and becomes validated, we look forward to sharing with you both its vision and executional plan later this year. Okay, so we actually get to... I was wondering if they were going to keep that roadmap internal. But I guess part of the reason they had so much longer for their beginning of the year meetings this year, normally they take about 3 weeks. This year I think they took 4 or 5. Maybe it's because of that extra bit of detail for this 1.0. If Jesus returned on the same day GTA 6 was released, no one would care. Go away! It just came out. Leave. It's not time yet. Sapace. this 1.0 roadmap's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. More than anything, it's going to get mocked. It's going to get mocked to no end on the interwebs. But if they are able to lay out this summer like they've said they wanted to, in my opinion, wait until 4.0 is out and then release this idea of 1.0, just so that you can give people more confidence that, hey, we've proved that like server meshing works with the game in a live environment. All these features have just gotten in from Squadron. Clearly we're on a grind. Here's our plan for how it continues. That's how I'd do it. But I'm not a doctor. Okay, as part of this development reorganization, we have made a few significant changes. From a personal standpoint, I have moved to Austin, Texas from Los Angeles to be closer in time zone to our main development operations in Manchester, Frankfurt, and Montreal. I thought he moved to Manchester. I'm guessing that was kind of like, never mind, kind of thing. Because a couple years ago, we can find this actually, because this is really close to that Richard Tyrer thing. Here we go. There it is.
We didn't do last year just because, we just.
I don't really know where he would say it though. This is like one of the last times he checked in.
Determined to make sure that in the game live server you actually see it, because really there's a lot of problems that come because of the low server tick rate. It's really quite frustrating, because in reviews I see
Anybody know like where they talk about moving?
I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Chris. Well, it's around the corner. I think probably middle of July is when it'll probably release. We're in Evocati right now. I think GTU in the which is still more of a challenge for what we deal with the planet and have to stay in, and a lot of layers. So we go forward. We'll start
Chris with the hands
and the lighting all together with the atmospheric.
It's like
downloading classes and PT.
Keep it short.
Okay, well, server meshing we're working really hard on. We have put together, probably our like biggest, engine. So it's critical to sort of different stuff. Now server has to travel over the.
Keep it short, she said.
Building block for it. I'm not challenging things in there just before we're good, but we didn't do from home and etching, so which will drill down much more onto the sort of looking on. It's not really, but the next best thing is to do a virtual one, so that
Star Citizen.
The May of Tyre is going to sort of go over the personal inventory and the medical gameplay, which is a big thing. To be honest with you,
where do they talk about this? It's got to be at the end.
Horrendous. Some time to be with the squadron team.
There we go. This is it.
Pretty good.
And maybe the medical tech will fix our daughter froze to death.
Well, no, she respawned anyway, but yeah.
Oh,
so
he froze.
Our daughter froze to death.
What else? And we have some plans for next year, don't we?
Yes. So when we get back to the office, which is probably going to be a little later on this year. We as a family are going to move over to the UK for some time to be with the squadron team to get it finished.
So he must have moved here. He must have moved to the UK for the Manchester office opening and like getting set up and everything, and then maybe moved back to LA over the last year. Because it's interesting that he's saying that they're moving from LA to Austin instead of just like having stayed at Manchester and gone to Austin. But yeah, it's more central. It's always fun to realize, because for a lot of people in America, you think this is an American game, but it's really not. So he will be in Austin, which is a couple of hours closer to everybody else. And let's see. Los Angeles, while shrinking, will still be an important office for the company, but one focusing on a business support role with marketing, finance, legal, and HR. As part of this reorganization, we sadly waved goodbye to the Persistent Universe live director Todd Pappy, as he had moved back to the US from the UK last year for family reasons. So because most of the development's taking part in Manchester now, so like Todd Pappy had some family issues and had to move back, and after much soul searching, I determined that we cannot afford to have this role remote from the main team in Manchester for good portions of the year. It is a sad moment as Todd worked diligently for the last 9 years on Star Citizen, making many important contributions and providing excellent leadership of his teams. I wish him the best of luck and look forward to seeing what he does next. It's sad, honestly. Todd's been a staple of the development. He's been on a lot of videos. You know, he's had a lot to say about a lot of the important things in Star Citizen. If you go back to when they actually did Pillar Talks, we didn't get as many as we should have. He's there for a lot of them. He's there alongside Chris Roberts, Richard Tyrer, Tony Z. Here he is right here, all about Alpha 3.9, and who's presenting it? Todd Pappy. So this guy was very central, and it's a bummer to see him go. I really do hope the best for him and his family. I hope that whatever problems it was that pulled him away for family reasons, they do get solved, but that you got to think that's pretty serious to move back across the world in such an important time. So I hope that works out for them, and I hope people leave him be, because yeah, people will want to, you know, come up with whatever reason for somebody leaving and try and get statements from them, and it's probably the last thing he wants if that's the case for why he left. Colt, thank you for the 2 subs, man. Gifting those out to the community. Appreciate you. And Sci-Fi to you. Thanks for the Prime sub. Much love to you. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Might just not want to move his family to England and we're ready to go back to the US. It's also possible. Think the move to UK was a temp move with his perma house in LA. Could he be talking about moving his perma house to Austin? I think he is, yeah. Used to be based in Austin back in the Origin Systems days. Yeah, and their Austin office is pretty big. Do wonder where he'll end up, of course, but def wishing the best too. Same. Keep seeing people saying base building dies with Pappy leaving. Where is this coming from other than he was the one presenting at CitizenCon? It's not like base building is something he solely came up with. Yeah, people will assume that like one person, and sometimes this is true, one person makes a big difference, but not for an entire, I don't think for an entire segment of the game like that. I think there'll be a wipe with 4.0. I do. Didn't he work in Frankfurt? I don't know. Maybe it's too hard for the creatures to behave as intended in the game. Well, let's continue. I will miss the sunny skies and beaches of Los Angeles. Don't worry, Chris. You're gonna love the... I hear there's plenty of sunny skies in Austin. Sometimes too sunny. Gets hot. But Star Citizen and Squadron 42 take precedence. The journey is longer and more difficult than I anticipated 11.5 years ago. But the final destination is so much more exciting and fulfilling. I would have never in my dreams expected to have the opportunity to build something on the scale and ambition of Star Citizen. And because of this, feel incredibly blessed by all of your support, and I'm determined to finish strong. In a marathon, they say the last mile is the hardest, but to quote Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, what we do now echoes in eternity. I see. An eternal legacy. I am looking forward to you getting your hands on Star Citizen Alpha 3.23 soon, where you will finally be able to experience many features we have been hard at work on for the past couple of years, which will then lead into Invictus Week in May. There he is putting a date again on this. As a lead up to Invictus, we have prepared a series of missions to earn your UEE Civilian Defense Force stripes and potentially earn an incredibly powerful and unprecedented in-game upgrade if you complete all of them. So you are ready to face the new threat in a more personal manner. They're definitely getting 323 out before Invictus, but I wonder if maybe it'll drop into May, and they won't do a 323.1 for the Invictus week, and they'll just go forward with 323. People still crying about the restructuring, acting like it's bankruptcy. Really? People are acting like it's bankruptcy? Oh, is it is it just a movie quote? What movie is it? Nobody said they'd release all of the base building all at once. Oh, yeah. I hope nobody expects that. Gladiator? Okay. Gladiator. Is that the one with, oh, man. The guy, you know, he's got the, like, the sword and the armor. Ah. Yum, 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 yum. What's his name? Kind of reminds me of Sean Bean. Russell Crowe. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. That guy. It's like reminds me of at least in my head, a combo of Sean Bean and who is Law Abiding Citizen? What's that guy's name? He's got a real British name. Can't remember what it was, though. Somebody's got it. Gerard Butler. Thanks. Such a freaking British name. Yeah, like a mixture of them. It's the one with Marcus playing himself. Leonidas. Where were we? Oh, that's probably where it comes from. He was in 300, yeah? The roadmap pick he posted in the 2022 roadmap. Finally in the final stretch. Let's see. The last thing that showed up on this in the future section, they didn't even have a year for it. Probably a good call. Was a server meshing MVP with 4.0. So they would get server meshing tech preview. Interestingly, they had the tech preview already known about in 2022. He's a Scot. I mean, Scotland's in the British Isles. So this is where we are. First server mesh prototype. The aim is to get an early tech preview onto PTU end of the year. Yeah, okay. 4.0 would mean the second release. This will be a static mesh of once single replication layer and hybrid service and 4 DGS nodes to simulate Stanton and Pyro. So their first release, they do want to get 2 server nodes for each system. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And then finally, culminating in planning and work on dynamic server meshing and replication layer V2. The further plans are separating the replication layer into a horizontal scalable service, as well as working on a dynamic GGS mesh that allows DGS nodes to dynamically scale up and down and split simulation into dynamic areas. So they're in that last little segment of this picture. Thank God. Touchy subject, I bet. Brian Chambers has been very quiet for some time. Oh, I can't imagine Brian Chambers isn't there. Or at least they wouldn't say anything about that. Bless his hair. Where's that chart from? This is from the letter from the chairman, May 2022. And it basically shows their roadmap for server meshing. Blah, blah, blah. Tech building, server meshing. We'll move towards dynamic server meshing. With 4.0, we'll get Pyro. Adding more content, gameplay, and polish, and get us to beta. 4.0 represents that next leap. We'll introduce it as a tech preview. Starts to see real-world testing with thousands of players in the PTU. aiming at end of Q1 2023 for server PTU. That did not happen, obviously. Back to our current letter, though. The driving force behind our success is our extended team. Each and every one of you. Aww. Together we have built a community that not only plays a crucial role in our development, but also embodies our shared passion for the Star Citizen universe. It is you who has... This is our passion right here. We just obsess over these documents. Without your passion, your willingness to test, to be undeterred by bugs and crashes, to be vocal with your thoughts, and stamina for the long and windy road, there would be no Star Citizen or CIG. Do you need a tissue, Mrs. Tomato?
So emotional.
Oh, you're crying. Nerd. You were there for the iconic helmet flip and the opening of the hangar doors for the first time in Alpha 0.8. Together we explored the vast expanse of the persistent universe for the first time in Alpha 2.0. And you were on board for the inaugural planetary landing in Alpha 3.0. And soon we will be leaving the Stanton system as we venture into the lawless wastelands of Pyro System in 4.0, thanks to server meshing. And beyond this, Star Citizen 1.0 twinkles on the horizon. The future has never been so bright. And I couldn't be happier taking this journey with all of you. All right. So we've gotten through the letter. Now we get to discuss all of our crazy ideas of what it means. I think it's, I don't think it's worth reading too much into, he says after taking 2 hours to read through it. It seems standard in its messaging. But if you go back to like here, like 2022, when they were talking about this initially with the persistent entity streaming and everything, look at how many dates and like a release schedule they were trying to give. They were trying to just let people know what was happening. The goal will be that we get this into testing in 3.18 PTU. And then it will be live in Q3. And then server meshing will come around with 4.0 going to Evocati by the end of this year. And then into PTU in Q1 next year. Like, there's so many dates here and so much setting expectations more specifically than what we're seeing in this patch. I think in the last letter from the chairman, it's the end of 2022. Again, we have a road to 4.0 kind of update. Let's see, are there any dates here? See, he started to stop doing the dates so much here. Except for we are aiming to put static server meshing and pyro into the hands of players in the 4th quarter of 2023. Again, a date. I don't think he does that at all here. Except for we want this update out by Invictus Week. I think that was really the main place that he gave expectations on time. Soon is all we got here, which is a classic. So yeah, it's very little promising time-wise. This is more about letting us know where they are, which is a lot of these other ones. These other letters have a lot of that kind of stuff. Here's how the year's gone. Here's how our technology is going. But they always finish off with this sort of, here's what to look forward to, that throws your expectations out of whack. So much CIG hopium. I really don't feel much of it here. Unless talking about 1.0 is hopium. Like I said, they're not giving any dates, which is a key detail. It's important. That's an important detail. Yeah, they're not saying that 1.0 is close. Yeah, they've been missing dates for sure. Missing dates. If you go to my stupid dumb channel where my stupid most viewed video is hey, it's me live. The most viewed video, I think it is. Yeah, is my it is my 4.0 Pyro first look video from, I believe it was after that letter from the chairman. Yeah, June 4th, 2022. So I read this letter, and like many other people, I went and made a video about the contents of this letter. And in my defense in my video, I estimated that the dates they were giving us would be at least 2 quarters early. So technically I'm only about 4 quarters off if they do get it this summer. But my prediction was bad. I think everybody's was based on this info we got from this letter. But I also think that this info in this letter is a lot better. This is live. What? Yes. This is indeed live. Vastin, you know that. They said Invictus for 23 and quarterly updates, which will be very hard with 23 being late. Yeah, that, I think Invictus for 23 is safe. There's no way they won't release an update for Invictus Week. If anything, they'll drop features. And now I'm making a 1.0 video. Hey! I don't know if I'm going to make a 1.0 video. If I do, it'll be next month. There's a lot to digest. This is a recording. I didn't even realize. I'm just now realizing that yeah, this is a recording. Did you know? What do you mean it's a recording? I'm right here. Oh, man. They're just telling us they're on track. Yeah. Well, on track. The fact they're even thinking of 1.0 and meshing as granular as a landing zone really shows how much confidence they have in that solution. So many people don't fully understand how clutch GSM is. Yeah, coming out and talking about server meshing. The change in energy from just a couple of weeks ago till now, like server meshing is testing. It's got to be the biggest shift in this thing since I've started joining or watching. Feeling more and more like 323 will be post Invictus? Why? Can't wait to roam the downtowns of megacities like an investigator. I hope that cities are pretty explorable, but I do think they'll limit it a little bit. Yeah, it's all a simulation. We're all really just plugged into gigantic towers of human processor units in a constant mindless simulation that we think is the real world, but is really just controlled and run by robots and Agent Smith. Toes. As someone who only plays casually for 1 or 2 weeks every 5 months, I do feel Star Citizen has really come far. When did you start doing that, Daniel? 323 gonna drop middle of the Overdrive event and right before biggest sales Invictus? I mean, they might delay the replication layer separation out of it, but I do think that and it is also weird that it's dropping in the middle of Overdrive, but I think that they're still gonna go for it. 323 would juice the sales so much more for Invictus than if they didn't do it. If they decided to just drop another 322 patch for Invictus, that would hurt so bad. People would not be wanting to spend money. Blackfish, thanks for the sub, mate. Appreciate you. And you'll see, you know, they might actually push out a patch and it might be kind of broken, and you're going to see people saying, oh, of course they pushed a patch. Of course they loaded all these features and they had to get it in so that this sale was better. And yeah, that's the reality of it. I think that's definitely what they're shooting for, at least. Malchieri, no problem. Nice they're talking about it, but talking about it is the first step. Well, we're using jump points. I'd say that's the second step. I think they would want to be a few weeks earlier. Yeah, that's usually what they do. Release this 323 in the first week or two of April, and then wait, no. Yeah. Release 323 probably mid to late April, and then release a 323.1 mid to late May, right before the event. That's how I think they would want to do it. Invictus starts, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th week of May, like the 23rd or something like that. Abidurik. Thanks for dropping in. I'm doing well. Hope you're good. Hopefully it's not another 318 experience. It won't be. Just go back to what they talked about with dropping in PES here. Where is it? All of the new services that they had to create for PES and how much it complicated the game, and then you go to here where they're talking about the testing of PES and how much of the work it takes to get this working as opposed to server meshing. There's not really anything in 323 that's going to do something like PES would. PES was the biggest change to the game's backend we've ever seen. That caused 318 to be pretty rough. The replication layer separation might be a thing in 323 that causes some trouble, but even then, I don't think that's at risk of causing as big a problem, because the replication layer is a connecting factor of the assets as opposed to the database itself. If the database breaks, you're kind of screwed. I feel like if the replication layer doesn't work, you know what? I don't actually know. Maybe can they turn it off? I don't know. That would be one place to look though for problems with 323, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Yeah, 323 will get features removed if anything. I don't think they're going to delay it. But again, they also have many more devs working on this stuff than they used to, so it's hard to judge how quickly their development process will go in testing now. Does the jump gates have a structure like on the picture, or they changed it? Still a little unclear on that. Not gonna lie, because they're supposed to have gates around more civilized and publicized jump points, whereas the less traveled ones are kind of natural and a little more unstable. But they also said that they realized with these jump gates, people think that humans are making the jump gates, and they really don't want to sell that idea. They want people to make sure that it's known that the jump points are naturally occurring. So I think they're moving away from the gates, but I'm not sure. Xenothreat, I think, is coming with 323, yeah. Oh, there's something that we could look at that might confirm. February 2024 monthly report, I believe, mentions Xenothreat as being updated to use toes. Support began provided for the Xenothreat global event, and the development of Xenothreat 1.2 continued with changes to gameplay and the implementation of freight elevators. So they can't run Xenothreat without 323 because they're including freight elevators. So if they want to get Xenothreat in for operation, what have you, they have to have 323 launched by the end of whatever this global event is. So freight elevators have to release for Xenothreat. Xenothreat has to release for the current global event, and all of that has to end before Invictus Week. If they cut it, then it's not the same 323 and may as well be 322.2. What? Oh. Okay. Fair opinion. CC Creator, how you doing? 33 months on the sub, my friend. Thank you. Much appreciated. I'm doing well. The gates look way cooler than what they showed on Star Engine demo. I hope they keep it. I hope they keep them too. I think it makes sense for us to have gates around the big passes like Terra to Stanton and stuff, and then maybe from like Nyx to Pyro, they're just unknown, sort of enter at your own risk kind of things. Don't actually remember what the jump point looked like here. Hey, yeah, CC. Kind of hoping that the mechanic of arriving on the other side of the gate spits you out within 2K of the gate randomly. That's supposed to be it. They're supposed to be so that gates can't be camped. people can't just sit outside the exit and kill people. It's supposed to push you out into a space that's in some proximity of the jump point. They will be redoing ArcCorp, yeah. They're gonna add more nature to it. Yeah, there wasn't really much to that. I don't think this is anywhere near what they want the jump points to look like. This seems like a very basic animation for it. The bass is just way too loud here. Like, you can't listen to that. So yeah, that was what the jump points look like right now, and I think back in the day they talked about why they changed them, but mainly it was because people were misunderstanding why the jump points existed, and not that it wasn't humans that made them, but they were just naturally occurring. But yeah, that's the letter. We don't have to read through it again, right? We'll do that again in 2 weeks. What do you guys think? What are all your thoughts? We've been talking about it the whole time, but I mean, mostly what I'm seeing feedback-wise, I haven't really looked too much throughout the community to see what people are saying on this yet. I wanted to get a chance to read it with all of you and get some initial thoughts out, but it seems like there's a lot of, oh, this is the same CIG, you know, same news, will this actually happen? Which I get the idea of, but as we've gone over today, like, you can see that this is a sort of natural occurrence, and I think the biggest thing is that even with these letters that we were getting, it was all stuff happening for them. At this point, I think it was still just in PES. So at least PES was working, and this letter felt a lot better. But all the way back for this letter, it's like everything was enclosed behind closed doors. We didn't know what was really going on. I think a player jumping through a jump gate is a lot. That gives me way more confidence than this letter does. But I think the letter also was released after they wanted to wait for that milestone to occur so that they could have a little bit more to go off of when we read this. And that's not missed. I feel better reading this than I would have if we didn't know server meshing was working, and we didn't know that 323 had a lot of features in polish, and we didn't know that base building was in the works, or that Squadron 42 was feature complete. This letter comes as more of a reassurance of the things we've been seeing, rather than as just a roadmap of the future or a chest beating session. And that also partially reflects on the way that they're communicating with us. Like Yogi coming onto the podcast to talk about what's being done with ship combat, to me, tells us that they are confident about the direction that they're going in. They're ready to communicate more with it because they have more stuff that's out in public and backing up what they're actually doing than what was going on before. It all says the same stuff to me. They're feeling better about where it's going. We still got challenges, obviously, and they're not going to tell us what those challenges are right now. I cash anybody. But things are looking good, I would say. Not perfect, not world changing. Don't sell your job and become a Star Citizen permanently yet, or ever. But I think things are going well. You've been watching Star Citizen development since 2012, and you're sensing very good year for Star Citizen? Or 2 years from now? Just found out Red Bull has written about Star Citizen on their site. Red Bull made a video about Star Citizen. You didn't know that? It's very easy to find. Granted, it is Red Bull Gaming. It's not like the actual channel for the energy drink or anything like that. But yeah, They made a video about racing. Pretty cool. Go check it out if you're interested. I don't think it's like any new info or anything, but it definitely... Oh, they made a couple games here. There's one more video here. I didn't even realize. So they made a few videos about Star Citizen. Feels like they've increased the production pace. You're hopeful. Then again, you've been hopeful for a very long time. So have we all. When have we ever seen such discipline in releases from ISC and SCL, the tech preview and Evo? Right? They keep holding a schedule with ISC. It's wild. CIG just made great leaps and bounds, but they have been consistently inconsistent. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is all exciting, but if you end up frustrated, it's your own fault. That's fair. Keep your expectations in check. But they've never had server meshing working. GII Racing. GII Racing, right here. SC community is funny, always got to be hyperbolic and overreact one direction or another. Oh, I love doing that, man. Love the hyperboles. What's your thought on all the creatures teasing they made? That we're going to get creatures soon. If you look up, hold on, let's see if it shows up. I've got a video for that. This one, I'll link this for you. This is a video compiling all of the evidence that we have so far. Oh my God, what is that link? This compiles all of the evidence we have for creatures coming along and the possible creatures I think we'll see. I'm thinking a bird and so we got a pyro crab. We've got a terrifying bird thing. We've got a kind of a tiger-looking four-legged predator sort of animal. And we've got the boreal stalker. This guy. And we've got the space whales. And the Kazi grazer. So if you want to check out like moral information about how creatures are coming along for Star Citizen, you can check that video out. It's got all my thoughts, but I do think they're coming. Get hyped, but don't hold your breath. Hold your breath. Yogi should have been asked what's up with control surfaces and why they're not coming in 323. I mean, they're not done. I don't think we'll get much of an answer past that. They're focusing mainly, it seems, on master modes. And I think it's the same people, so they can only work on one major system at a time. That looks nothing like a tiger. Shh. It's a tiger. Where do space whales rest? They float. They just float. Wouldn't you need the gold standard of the ship to have working control surfaces? No, I think it's kind of like how engineering will be added. I think the gold standard is all of those systems added. But control surfaces would be like you'd have to rework the ship for it, yeah. But in the same way that they're reworking them for master modes. Control surfaces are more important than master modes. Yeah, but it seems like master modes was finished first. No point in not doing master modes if that's ready to go. And hold off on control surfaces until it's ready as well. No, I don't think we'll get space whales in 323. What's next after archetypes? Tuning each ship or moving to something else until more systems are in? I think they're probably going to move to something else. Because they've got to get Maelstrom working. They've got to get control surfaces working. They've got to get all that to function correctly with engineering. With working ailerons and flaps? I don't know, maybe. What is this song? Is this Star Citizen? Just some dramatic Star Citizen playing in the background. How about this? No. How about this? How about that? What this? Okay, give me something good. We're wrapping up. I want something good to finish off to you. As soon as they get the back end sorted, they can make fast improvements. I hope. Galather, hey. Welcome. Good to see you in the chat. You had a shout out for Galather? One of them streamer types. One of those famous streamers. Welcome, my friend. How you doing? Master modes included a complete refactoring of ship speeds. It only makes sense for them to do that before they start dialing atmospheric flight with control surfaces. That's fair, yeah. Control surfaces need to be compatible with Maelstrom. Imagine losing half of your ship and still flying the same way. Wait till more big items are in game to tune each ship. Focus on overhauling weapon tunings in the meantime, yeah. Do I think that we'll have a subsystem screen for control surfaces? More power to air brakes or ailerons? I don't know. I don't know how in-depth they'll go with control surfaces. It's definitely something that I'd like to know more about, but it really doesn't seem like they have much to say on it yet, or they don't want to say much on it. I think they'll keep quarterly updates going, yeah. They even said it in this patch. Tyler says it in his part. Don't know how to spell quarter now. Come on then. Why do I keep missing that? Here we go. You should expect to see large updates each quarter with many changes to systems that have not been touched in a long time. So they're gonna keep going with quarterly updates. Definitely seems like they'll be doing multiple passes on this stuff. Yeah, I think this is an ongoing process for them. All right, y'all. Well, any last questions? Anybody want to throw out a last hot take? Excited for Maelstrom. CIJ will be able to create more ships, more shipwrecks locations. Yeah, that'll be cool. I wonder how that affects their ability to make derelict ships. That'd be great. It'll make sense to do quarterly after they get most Squadron 42 systems in. Polish there will help on Squadron. Can't wait. Lots of progress across the game heading into this PTU cycle. Very excited for 323 and beyond. I'm so pumped. Let's just forget about theater support. Oh, God. God, look at all these hot takes. Master boats won't work as intended. Hot take, SC is a scam. That's your timeline. 5 years for 1.0. Excited to read about 1.0 till they did a ship sale. That continues to suggest they'll keep doing ship sales after release. I don't think doing a ship sale right now signifies anything about after release. I think it just shows that they still need to do some ship sales to make some money right now. But let's see what happens after Squadron releases. Not saying they won't do ship sales, just I don't think that's gonna define whether they do or not. Anything about base building? Not yet. No. Maybe later. Marketing is absolutely killing it and should be highlighted and interviewed. But also maybe switch up the marketing a bit. they're also killing it proverbially. Quantum Jump do you like the most? The first they teased during CitizenCon or the one they improved on when they re-uploaded CitizenCon? I don't know. I like the overall dynamic of it that they've set up. Economy is part of 4.0. I could see that. I do think the replication layer separation will increase performance, but I don't know how much by, or if it will be that much. Oh, Tuss. Look at you. Supposed to end during lunch. You'll have to rework your schedule. New schedule is up on Discord. Get with it. Set those alarms. We're a morning show now. We are a breakfast show. What are the odds Squadron 42 will be playable at CitizenCon? I doubt it. I don't think it will be. I think that they've got too much riding on that thing being a surprise for that kind of thing. It wasn't designed for the PU. It was designed for the single player experience. They actually designed master modes for the PU first. That was something that Yogi mentioned on the podcast. That surprised me a bit. I do think it's singularly focused towards combat mostly, but they did seem to have designed it with PU in mind. Also, yeah, global illumination should be cool. That should be a good addition. All right, I'm done dilly-dallying. I've sat here long enough, just talking, chatting, and chilling. It's time for dinner, folks. I appreciate you all. Thanks for being here. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the letter from the chairman. We'll be doing more on Wednesday, of course. Make sure to check out the schedule on... Yeah. Make sure to check out the schedule on Discord for what's going on throughout the week. On Wednesday, I will be having a little game session. As you guys know, I'm starting to invite more people into the game sessions to do some joint content and stuff. And this Wednesday, I will be joined by Morphologists. We will be getting into the game together, chatting, talking about what's going on, and just perusing around and seeing what's up. So if you want to come and see a little chat, it's not a podcast, but it should be a good time. Plenty informative and a lot of good takes. So I'll see you all on Wednesday for that, and make sure to check out the newest video. It explains server meshing, like probably in the most detail you've seen on YouTube. Not to gas it up or anything, but it's using multiple presentations to try and define server meshing as Yogi described it, and I'm very proud of it. So if you check it out, share it maybe. Let me know what you think, and have a great time. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week, everybody. Go eat something yummy, give someone a hug, tell them you love them, and stay tozy. Much love to you all. Have a good one. Bye.